We were somewhere in Israel. I don't remember
It's
where.
Jeanette and Steve's meeting being recorded.
Hello, Stephen Lipschitz.
Hello, Moishe. How are you?
All right, how are you? You haven't
I'm-
changed at all, man.
Oh, of course not. None of us have changed.
If we had to meet in the street,
we've got to be
nobody
able
would
to
know.
try and see if we can get everybody in view.
There's Melanie Mashett. Can you believe it?
Who's that?
She sat in front of me in school. In
And you
grade
used to pull my hair.
Oh, I was going to just say that. Absolutely.
Let me just try and get
But the color was a little different.
The color was very different.
Not bottles and things.
It's a different bottle.
Hello, Jeanette.
Hi, sweetheart. How are you? It's good to see you.
Good, and you?
Good, good. At least I know I've seen you in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, let's just see. Can you see? Are we both on the screen?
Melanie, what was your name before Mashet?
Becca.
Oh, okay. Melanie
Yes.
Becker. I have a
Yeah.
confession to everyone. In second grade in primary school, I was in love with you.
Oh,
That's sweet.
then maybe I should have married you.
Hello,
My
Clive.
problem was I was getting thrown out of class so often, hardly saw anyone.
I think I was also, don't worry about that one.
Steve, I remember you used to get on the bus on the corner of Donato Street and 13th Avenue.
Oh my
Oh, I was on 12th Avenue.
The 12th, yeah. Or
Clive,
12.
are you in Florida now?
Talking to me?
Are you in Florida now?
Yes, I am. It's amazing to just see everyone and listen to everyone's voices. It's incredible.
But I'm just looking, is that the beach outside?
Yeah,
Hello.
now that you are looking at the ocean behind me, I guess.
Thank you, Clark.
Hello, Clive. Moshe Erster.
Hey, Mosh, how are you?
Great. How's it?
Jeez,
Oh, you're
remember
great,
you.
man. Something's happened to your hair, though. I don't know what
I
happened.
know, what can I tell you? It's my wife figured it out over the years.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
very
not.
sorry
I'm
about
not.
you.
I'm not having. I don't have much more, but how none of us have changed. I would have recognized everybody everywhere.
Oh,
Absolutely.
come on.
Oh, come on, Moshe.
Well, the ladies we've seen before. So
Yes.
we
Yeah.
are advantaged.
Stephen, we haven't seen, even though we're in Israel often, we've never seen Stephen.
Well, we
And David, how are
Jeanette
you?
visited and we met. It depends if you visit. Brian Molnar was here and we met. So you have
I
to come
was
to
there and we
Israel.
didn't meet.
Hang on. You
You
want me
have to make a
something
call,
on for you?
Melanie.
But we have a bunch of ex-Davidians in Israel. Some reason we didn't get well coordinated with this meeting. Only yesterday
no,
we
I just
started
spoke to
realizing
David.
it.
I spoke to David and he said he only knew about it yesterday.
Yeah,
But he had
because
a
I
meeting
send
in
him an
Tel Aviv.
email.
But
Yeah.
I don't understand. Because John Marco, who's part of that group,
He is
knew
registered.
about it. So there's something that's not okay. But anyway, that's the way.
You
It is.
know what it is.
David
I thought I
Block.
saw Evelyn's name.
David, good morning. This is what you gave me for my bar mitzvah, a little siddur.
I know
Over the
you sent
world.
it to me once before. You showed me that picture. I'm so pleased that you've still got it. Looks
Yeah,
like it should be replaced. Amazing.
Never replace old Sidurim. Never.
Never replace.
Yeah, there, John's arrived.
Hello,
John.
Ilona.
The Israeli
Oh, no, your
contingent is
screen's
getting
black.
ready.
Think about it, yeah.
No, of course not. I just wanted to say, we totally get
Can you do
this.
it? Is there a picture or something?
Tea room. Yeah, and we know you might not want to start working with your mum and old stepdad.
Oh.
So no, if you're worried about hurting our feelings, don't be. Thank you.
Hello, Ilona.
Hello, who's saying hello to me?
That.
I'm
Everyone's
Gilla.
saying
Hi.
are you to you,
Sorry?
Ilona.
To keep to Wayne's brief.
Yeah, I'm Gilla.
Name.
Hi, how
Hi,
are you?
Gila. Thank you for
And-
Good.
Very
organizing.
nice to see you.
Inside us and Lillian.
And you. Hi, Brian.
You wouldn't have a share in the
Oh,
pub. You'd
sorry,
still
I've
have
got,
an
I've
equal
got,
voice.
hold on one sec, I've
Who
just got to
knows, in the
get,
future,
something
be able to
is
buy into the
running in
business
the
of-
background on my,
Okay.
yeah, oh, there we go, that's why I couldn't hear you. That's better.
Ilona, you still in
Ilona.
England?
Hi.
Ilona, you still in England?
I'm still in England, yes, yes.
Very good.
My heart is somewhere else, but my body is here, yeah. Yeah, I guess if you, for those of you who are not in Israel. Your hearts are probably also somewhere else.
But all of us grew up on your mother's songs.
Thank you, including me. Yeah. Yeah,
Carmel,
it's
where's
so
your
nice to
picture?
see- Sorry?
Carmel?
Yes, I can't get on.
Carmel, are you on a laptop?
No, I'm not on a laptop, I'm on a computer.
You know where the little camera is at the top? Is there a disc covering it?
No, I can't see a disc at all.
Do you know where I'm speaking about, where the camera shines at the top of the computer?
You can see the view.
Brian, have you logged on twice? It's not a problem. I'm just checking I've got you.
Well,
Hello,
every- Everyone
Hello,
on your
Ray.
best behavior. David Goss is here.
Good.
Hi, David.
Gila, I'm having a problem with my computer. It's
Do you
Carmel.
want to log off and come back on?
I don't want to, then I won't get on at all and I won't see anybody.
Okay, if you're happy to stay, I'm happy to have you like this. And we just would have loved to seen you.
Yeah, me too. I would have loved to see can see people, but
Oh, can't you see anybody?
I can see everybody. I've seen
Okay.
Melanie and Jeanette, but I can't speak to you.
Jeanette, did you share your link with someone? Because somebody with the same name's just come on.
I don't know. I mean, people have been struggling to find out what is the
Wait.
correct link. Oh, okay. So that might be Israel.
Hello, David Goss, Moshe Erster.
Moshe, my man, how are you?
Oh, so that's
I'm very good. How are you?
Surviving, you know, that's all we can do.
That's for all of us, I think.
Yeah, we're getting to that stage of life, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
So
much.
can I tell you what Nelson Mandela said? Nelson Mandela said there are 3 stages of life.
Right.
There's youth, there's middle age, and but you're looking good.
I like that part. That's the best part of life.
He said that to Jules Brody when Jules met him once. That's what he said. I heard that from Alan Brody.
Ah, really?
It's very real, that.
Do you see Alan? Whatever happened to Ian? Where is Ian?
Ian is on the west coast. Yes, I'm in regular contact with Ian.
Oh, really? Interesting. Send him my best when you speak to him next.
I will.
Yeah.
The second Jeanette that just entered, the gentleman, can you tell me who you are so I can change your name?
Which gentlemen? Are there any gentlemen here today?
Yeah, you with the hand up.
Ezra Hirschman.
Ezra.
Wait,
where is
Ezra? We can't see.
Where are you, Ezra?
We don't see you, but we hear you.
Oh, you
You must have too many on your screen. So just page to the side, you'll see him.
Page to the side. That sounds interesting.
Page to the side. I can recognize.
That's not him, Mike. We haven't gotten to
now
that in
I
our
see
class
everybody.
yet.
Gee whiz.
Page to the side. There. Oh, wait.
Who can't
Ezra
see anybody?
Rocky.
Ezra Hirschman?
Hello, Rhoda.
Ah, there is
Rhoda
Ezra.
Glazer.
Now I see
I
Ezra.
see Ezra here in the bottom.
Yeah, we're talking about you.
Ezra the author.
There's Ezra, nice name appears. Very good.
Oh,
Talk loudly, like you know.
Oh, Peter. Good for Peter.
Peter got up early. Good for him.
How are you?
Talk louder.
It's a loud second talk.
I'm not going
We
to
can hear you. Peter, I hope you're going to turn your camera on.
Hello,
Hello,
Oshi.
Oshi. How you doing?
Hey, there's
Hello,
Oshi.
everybody. Has school started?
Not yet.
Now 10
about to
minutes.
ring.
Oh,
I was waiting for the
Ilana.
bell. I was waiting for the bell. It never went.
Oshi, it won't start until you sing the hymn. The
Carol,
anthem.
hello.
Hi. Moshe,
You still sing, Oshi?
Hello, my dear.
I do. I
do you still
yes.
sing in the car?
Great.
I sing all the time.
All the time?
Yeah, but I don't think
so
it sounds
remember
like
you singing
Oshi.
in the traffic.
Wonderful to see everybody.
Yeah, it
Yes,
really is.
yes, indeed.
Sure.
It's
I'm
been,
going to wait
been
until
within
about
us.
10 past
Ilona.
because 32 have registered and 19 are on so long. So I think we'll just give another 10 minutes for everybody to come along.
Yeah.
Can I just say
Perfect.
hello to Ilona? You're looking stunning.
Who's
Hello,
that?
Lisa.
I bumped into you and I can't remember the shop. It was
Thank you.
some
Oh
shop in,
God,
in
yes, I remember. We were in the computer shop, that big computer
Cross.
shop. Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
It's lovely to see you. Yeah.
I
wondered-
employed your stepdaughter.
Oh, did you?
She's moved somewhere else, but she was an employee of mine for a while. Yeah.
Really?
She's very good.
Oh gosh, that's really nice. She's moved to
UCLH.
UCLH. Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah, that's amazing. I must
No,
talk to
no,
her
that's
about
great.
that. Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah, she's very nice.
Yeah.
Lucky.
You know, the
Yeah.
amazing thing when Moshe Oester started this, when was it? 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Put us in touch because none of us had been, of course, on email in our days. I remember Norman Sonder had a little book where he had everyone's phone number or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was quite incredible. We're the age before computers.
I know, it's rather wonderful, don't you think? I kind of long for that. I think the
Yeah.
world would be a more peaceful place if we were back to the age with computers.
I share that. I agree.
Yeah, all of us are being hammered by our algorithm, and you get really wound up if you seem to follow particular things. I'm finding it
Aren't your
very
children
disturbing.
and grandchildren all over the world?
I don't have, well, my step-grandchildren are, one's in Japan, yes. And that helps. Yeah, that's lovely. You're absolutely right. I like being able to talk with my family. But
Exactly.
But
yeah.
I do it on WhatsApp. I don't use computers. Computers are irritating.
Yeah.
Boy,
I use WhatsApp mostly as well.
Yeah.
No, but it's just the availability of news you'd rather not read because it's rubbish.
Hello, Ron
Yeah.
Dembo.
Ron Dembo. Wow.
Moshe Oester.
Hey, Ronnie.
Where is he?
Yeah, where is
hello
he?
guys.
Bottom
Where
right.
is he?
Where are you,
There
Ronnie?
he is.
Very
I'm
bright.
in Toronto, outside Toronto, and it is a very snowy day.
Oh
Whoa,
dear.
gosh.
I'm on a farm outside Toronto.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, Ronnie,
Right.
Ronnie,
Yeah.
you can have comfort that in Israel, it's the coldest day of the year. It is 7 degrees centigrade outside. Imagine that.
Oh,
I mean,
Steve, it's been like that in the UK for weeks.
Yeah.
I'm flying to Madeira tomorrow
Come to Israel.
get away from the
Get
cold.
warm.
I'm going to Madeira.
It is -7, and
-7.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
right. Okay,
Yeah,
right.
but your houses are all toasty. People in Canada know how to build against cold. I've
Yeah,
never
no,
come
it's,
across an English house that's managed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's very toasty actually. I've
Yeah.
even got underfloor heating
Yeah.
in my bathroom. Yeah, no, we're not cold.
Yeah.
Ryan
I
Mulder,
get-
don't
I
you want to
get
turn your
minus
your
7.
camera on?
It's 11 o'clock right here and we've got 25 degrees. It's fine, there's no trouble.
Yes, Gilda. Wow.
That's Gilda, yes.
That's me. Gila, I'm having
Excuse
trouble
me.
with my computer. So I only can see everybody and you can't see me.
Every now and then we catch
Okay, I'm just glad you're on.
Okay, maybe.
I noticed
All
you
of
left and come back.
Ryan,
Gila,
where's the
If your
camera?
children or grandchildren, they'll fix it. I promise you.
Gila, you look so young compared to all of us.
Yeah, you do.
I wonder why.
Who's that?
I take a wild guess at the average age here is 76. Could that be correct?
Absolutely.
So
And
clever.
we're still walking. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
need Hilton Sachs here because he sets us going.
But tell me, how many X Davidians are there on our whole group? I know not everyone's here today, but how many do we have?
Well, we're
Anyone
missing
know?
the East Coast. We're missing Israel, except for John and myself.
What's the
And
time in Israel?
2 o'clock, like South Africa.
Yeah.
And
Susan can't join us.
Eli, is everyone put on
The same in South Africa. Durban, South Africa.
Eli?
So how many are in South Africa is the question.
Well, you know, we had a reunion. I don't know. Melanie, you were there
I
in
was
South
there.
Africa. Oshi, you were there at our house a couple of years ago, and we
I
were
was there also.
29
many?
in Dave 29.
And how many are left is the question.
I
Of
think
those
Ronnie
29,
passed away, didn't he, Ilona?
yeah, all right.
According
What
to
happened
my
now? I lost.
according
Wait,
to my
I've got-
database,
Wow.
sorry, according to my database, 21% live in South Africa. Then
Yes.
USA at 18, Israel at 11, and then I have 36% of people I don't know where they live.
No.
Oh,
We don't know if they're alive.
Run,
No,
run
I
our
don't
website,
live-
Let's see if anyone knows.
Yeah.
On our
And
Israeli
who
WhatsApp, we
lives
have
in
15
Australia?
people.
Australia,
only
I have
30
9% of people.
There are only 34,000 Jews left in South Africa. In the whole of
What?
South Africa.
How many?
34,000.
18% is your class.
Got no pictures.
Well, you know what's really very appropriate. I used to spend most of my time outside of class. They used to kick me out, and me and
I
the
don't
bosses,
remember that.
me and the bosses daughter used to hang out outside.
Close that one, Lawrence.
Okay. I
But
think we
Ron-
should start. We
Yeah,
are on
Ron-
23.
Only 2, so 7.
Ryan, you're muted. Brian Katz, Brian Milner, Raylene, you're all
Brian
muted.
Milner and Brian Katz don't have their cameras on.
But they don't also muted.
No.
We can't hear them.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute everybody in a minute.
Maybe they're
Okay.
sleeping.
You
Gillen,
just there.
I don't remember you. You in our years.
Me.
Yeah, you, Gilla.
The Gilla is.
So I don't believe my mother had started school yet. All right. We currently, I'm blushing. We currently have 23 people who have joined us, and we have 32 who had registered. I'm going to start now. I'm going to ask that I'm going to mute everybody. Please, I can't mute everyone. Okay, please, if you speak while somebody else is speaking, you're going to cut that person off and nobody can hear them. So please don't speak while the others are speaking. So as I said, I'm Gilla. I work at the King David Schools Foundation. Raylene Trodonsky, who's on as well, is our executive director, and she runs the foundation. She's currently seeing appointments in Cape Town, so she's logged on from her phone for a moment. Each person will get 2 to 3 minutes to say hello, where you are, what you're doing, whatever you feel like talking about, share a lovely story. No politics, no religion, no weather. Because once you speak about weather, we're done.
Grandchildren.
Okay. So, who would like to start? All right. Moshe, thank you. I just called on you.
Okay, so school ended in 65 and 66 I started taking out a great lady who was my good girlfriend for many, many years. And in 71, we were blessed to get married. Was not without challenges on the road, but there you are. We are now blessed with 5 children, 4 girls and a boy, 3 girls, a boy, and then Achter Scott, 10 years later, who has been the reason why we keep going. We are also blessed with numerous grandchildren. Our eldest and youngest children live in Israel. And they, between them, my eldest has 4 children, my youngest has 2 children. And my children in South Africa have 3, 3, and 2. So I'm blessed with 8 granddaughters and 6 grandsons who we are in regular contact with. Those in South Africa, we see on a regular basis. They live in reasonably close proximity. But those in Israel, due to technology, we are blessed to be able to talk to them regularly. My daughters are able to ask their mother on a regular basis if the shoes match the dress. When they go shopping, when they buy glasses, what recipe they should use for this Shabbat or this Chag or this party. So that's in a nutshell is our story. We have had challenges health-wise between us, but we have been as positive as one can be positive. Ilana was challenged with cancer twice, came out of it both times with flying colors, not a blue blazer, but flying colors. She's been amazing. She's been positive beyond conception. I too have my challenges, but overall, we have been blessed. Our children are the raison d'etre of why we and how we keep going. And it's really great to be able to join together again. As Oshi said, 10 years ago, we tried to put it together. We got the things going, and I think groups around the world have emerged from all of this. People have connected, and I think most of the people on the screen today, we would have had nothing to do with had it not been for that initial program. Oshi I saw, Ezra I've seen, he's been in South Africa once or twice. Elaine Singer I've seen, Peter Lewin on the odd occasion, Ilana Erster I see quite regularly, Jeanette has been in South Africa a number of times, Stephen I haven't seen. So it's really great. From my personal point of view, it's a most wonderful experience. And as I always say about King David, when I stand and I walk down the corridors of King David Primary School, I have unbelievably positive memories. And one of those that stand out unbelievably well is when the Israeli Navy came to South Africa. And they came to, David, you'll remember that, as will many. They came in their white Navy uniforms, and there we were too young to really understand the impact that there we were, our people, our country, our Navy. So besides that, when I do visit King David on the odd occasion, I'm more than happy, nostalgic, love being there, and love that I've been able to be part of this program today.
Thanks, Mesh. Ilana, how are you?
Hi, so I'll pick up there because the journey 10 years ago, we worked very much together. And I must say was a very interesting exercise, tracing everybody down. And Ilona, I must say that was where the computer came in and internet came in very, very handy because we did contact a lot of people. And actually, one of the people, Mush just mentioned Nolan Carstead, because I mentioned him last night
Yes.
when
So
I put...
how did I get Nolan Carstead? I knew where he was working. I knew where he was, or he was at the Mayo Clinic. So I phoned the Mayo Clinic, and I said, I want to speak to Dr. Carstead. So they said, but who are you? I said, I'm an old school friend. And he took my call. Unfortunately, I didn't have much contact after that. And 2 years ago, or maybe 18 months ago, I thought, well, let me see what's happened to Nolan. And then I saw that he had unfortunately passed away in May of 23. So and I did a similar thing to David. I Googled David, I found out where he was, and I picked up the phone and I phoned him. And that's the way a number of the people that I connected with, because I just took the liberty of connecting, phoning, and doing what I did. So it was Nolan was terrific on the phone, but there was no contact thereafter.
Okay, so we've connected with a lot of people. We've stayed connected with a lot of people. Unfortunately, some who are not here. And we're very lucky that we visit Israel often because, as Moshe said, our kids are there. And we've actually had get-togethers with a group in Israel. Stephen, you weren't there, but John, you were there on both occasions that we had little mini reunions. And that was very, very special. Just to talk about ourselves, I am a speech therapist. I studied speech therapy, I studied psychology, and worked at Wits for many years where I was a lecturer. And then after the birth of my kids, I became a part-time lecturer, and that led me into the field of private practice. And I've actually remained in private practice even to this very day. I still have patients that I see. And my favorite sort of line is people say to me, well, how much longer are you going to work? And I say, well, when I reach my sell-by date. And, you know, as long as there are patients, I will continue to work. I used to have big rooms and employ people in a clinic, but now I just have a practice here at the back of my house and it works very well for me. I think for myself, one of my big achievements that I'm very proud of is that I actually, when I went into private practice, there was no such thing as private practice. All service in the country used to be offered at hospitals and schools. And as that steadily deteriorated, so we saw the need to actually provide service. And we did that through doing private practice training at the university. We sort of taught it as another field of endeavor. And I've been very fortunate to still be quite involved with that till the last about 15 years. And then I resigned myself because as the country changed and as the nature of the universities changed, I decided I don't want to be thrown out with the bathwater. So I just focused then on my own practice and my own individual contribution. Mosh, you want to talk?
No.
That, you know, Mosh has been involved. He's an accountant. He's been involved in business, but we don't need to talk about that unless you want to add anything. As you've heard, we've got wonderful children and grandchildren. We're now at the age of our eldest grandchildren being of marriageable age. That's exciting. And we have lots to look forward to, and it's just wonderful to share with everybody here.
Thank you so much for sharing. It was lovely hearing from you, and seeing you the other day was fantastic. I just want to welcome Ken to the group, and then Janet, do you want to say hi for us?
Yeah, I just want to pick up on what Richard said.
Come closer.
Sorry, I'm trying my best. I just want to pick up, are we going to give a list in place to those who are no longer with us?
Can't hear you.
Sorry, I don't know why my son is, I've got it on like 90 documents. I don't know why I can't hear you. I've got it on
I
like
can hear you now.
I've made it 100%. Is that better? All right. So I was going to say, pick up, we discussed online, and I know you're involved in it, because we were going to the list of our friends who are no longer with us. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it later? Am I not being heard?
We can't really hear.
I don't know what to do. I've got my voice. I don't know where my sound is. Yeah. When I practice, it was just fine. So you can't hear me at all?
Very, very vaguely.
Let's go with somebody else and I'll try and see what's going on.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Michael Abramovitz, do you want to say hi? Wait, you need to unmute.
Morning, it's good to see you all. I'd like to just mention the names of people that have departed and respect their memory.
Michael, I'm going to be doing that just now.
Okay.
So tell us a bit about yourself.
I live in Maryland, 11 miles from the White House. I retired in 2013. I was a pediatric cardiac anesthesiologist at a major medical center, director of medical education. I was in Boston when I first arrived in the United States, to the little university at Cambridge. Then I had an NIH research fellowship where I developed assays for antibiotics. And then after that, I spent some time in Seattle doing subspecialization. And then I came back to Washington, D.C., worked at Children's Hospital National Medical Center for about 10 years and had an academic appointment. And then I went across the river to Virginia and worked in the cardiac pediatric program at Anova Hospital. And I was there for a bunch of years. And then I had teaching. And then I had an academic appointment with Virginia Commonwealth University as a professor with tenure. And I always used to say, with tenure and 50 cents, you could get a cup of coffee and a bus ride downtown. And I published a fair amount of academic papers and just carry on. After I retired, I continued working with veterans at the VA treating PTSD with Project Healing Waters and try to keep busy. I used to write for Fly Fishing magazine. One of my articles was safety in fly fishing, and then I got into a lecture circuit, speaking to different Trout Unlimited chapters on safety and outdoor activities.
Cardiology to fly fishing. Okay.
Cardiac anesthesia, mostly.
Cardiac anesthesia. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Clive, hello from Florida.
Hello, everyone. I have to say,
Clive, do you live in Florida, or you're only on holiday in Florida?
I'm one of those. I live in winter in Florida, and some I live in Princeton, New Jersey. So I immigrated to the United States in 1977 after graduating as an engineer at WITS and working a few years as an engineer. And then I came to the US. First few years were really difficult. It was very hard adapting, etc. I started a consulting engineering practice that grew quite big. It turned into an international business, and we designed mechanical and electrical systems for all kinds of buildings, particularly supermarkets. We were quite well known for doing refrigeration design for large food distribution systems, etc. And I sold my engineering practice about 3 years ago. I'm still on a consulting basis. I have to say, it really is amazing to look at everyone and hear, everyone's stories. For me, my grounding, I was not at King David Primary. I started in high school, and it was amazing 5 years. And it's when I left there, I had this strong love for Israel, and I was part of the first Ulpan group. We stayed at Ulpan Akiva. I think David was with. I'm trying to think of looking at this list. Who else went on the Ulpan? Ezra Hirschman, I think.
Peter.
Who? Peter,
Peter's waving.
Yeah. Peter Lewin, my recollection of Peter, I think I mentioned it once.
Ezra too.
The plane flying out, he got sick and he was sick in the aircraft. But anyhow, it's my life in the United States has been good. I do miss South Africa a lot. I've been back 3 or 4 times and love the whole experience. And as for a hobby for me, I became a private pilot. I got a private pilot license in South Africa and spent many years here in the US, flying around for my own and commercially for the business, etc. So it's just great to see you all. This is a terrific thing to do, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
I just have to add, I've got 7 grandchildren, 4 of whom are in college, one studying aerospace engineering, the other studying business and nursing, etc. And that's my story, or most of
Are they all in America?
They're all in America, all of them in the US.
Oh, nice, nice. Thank you. Ilona, will you unmute yourself?
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, it's just I'm kind of feeling very emotional. It's overwhelming seeing everybody, and it's really just delightful. And I often wonder. In fact, about 7 years after I came to live in England, I found an old photo of our class reunion, and I spent about 3 months painting all of us. So I've got paintings of every single one of you somewhere in my plant chest, because I did a group painting and then I painted each of us. It's very emotional seeing you, and I'm thrilled about it. So thank you for bringing us together. Yeah, the years at King David were very memorable, and comparing our education to the education I see that young, our grandchildren, etc., are getting today, I really think we were extremely fortunate. But apart from that, I did a fine arts degree and came to England and went on painting, and for about 8 to 10 years, I think, I worked as a research assistant to the Slade professor. And then I met my very wonderful second husband, who was, it was just very fortunate that he happened to work in the movie business. So we traveled all over the world a lot, and we spent a lot of time in Toronto. We actually, I think, over the about 25 years, we probably spent 3 years in Toronto, not in one tranche, but for 6 months here and 6 months there. So it was a great experience, and I loved being there. But we both now back in London, and I've gone on painting, and I started about just before COVID. I started to make an animation, which I've never done before. And I'm actually very bad at it, but I've got a wonderful young animator who is half my age, who is very good at it. So it's a hand-painted animation, and it's based on a story that my mum wrote. And funny enough, it was one that she'd never published, but she did give it to me before she died. She said, just take the story and do whatever you want with it. So I am. It's a story based in ancient Japan, and it's about a painter and his wife who are struggling with the community because she can't have children, and they want her to be rejected. And that's where I'm at the moment. We're 60% done. It's a 42-minute animation, every frame hand painted. And I'll give you an idea that for 4 seconds of film time, I've done, it takes about 1,350 separate paintings. So yeah, it's a labor of love, but I'm hoping in 2 years we'll be done, and then I can show it to all of you. I was very lucky. I met this young man who's just been invaluable and wanted to work with me on it. So there we go.
That's amazing.
Happen in one's life. I've got 6 grandchildren, but they're all Peter's grandchildren. My 2 girls, from very early on in their lives, always said, "Ooh, I never want to have a baby," and sadly, they never did. Yeah, it's very sad, and I do miss that. But we have I've got these lovely step-grandchildren, so it's very, very nice to have. But it's a strange feeling to know that when one dies, that's it. But what else can I say? I just know that you all sound so creative, and your lives have been so rich and full and amazingly socially conscious. I feel quite intimidated by it, because I just spend my time on my own virtually painting, and I don't know that it does much good to the outside world. But
the outcome will.
Well, maybe, if I'm lucky, yes. Yeah.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. So that's me.
Thank you. Share some pictures with us in a day or so. That would be amazing to see.
Oh, I will.
Love to see that.
I can send you a few clips, because we're applying for an award that actually closes in 26 days, and on the 26th, not in 26 days, in 6 days, I think, or 5 days now. For what, 3 days? Yeah. And it depends on votes. So anyway, you don't have to vote if you don't feel like it. It's a very
link so we can vote. It's very exciting.
Oh, thank you. I will.
Yeah.
But you can see what we're doing anyway from the website.
Okay, please post it on the group.
I will. I will.
Thank you.
Thanks. And
Great.
thank you for being such a charming, lovely host. I immediately, when I came on, I thought, whose beautiful granddaughter is this?
Thank you. John Masro. Sorry, John, hello.
Hi. I don't really have very much to say, especially compared to my former classmates. After I did a BCom at WITS, I came to Israel in 71. I've been here basically all the time, apart from 4 years in Boston in the 70s. After I arrived, I did an MBA at Tel Aviv University. I worked in banking and in banking consulting, in finance for many years. And when that ended, I ended up working in a high-tech company. As you probably know, high-tech is the driver of the Israeli economy and has been for a few years. And I worked in a company which I was very fortunate that it was about a 5-minute drive from where I was living. And I thought I'd be there for 2 or 3 years. I was there for 15 years. Stopped working nearly 3 years ago. Married twice, divorced twice. I have the youngest. I'm certainly that in this group, I have the youngest grandchildren. My oldest granddaughter's turning 4 this week, and my second granddaughter turned 2 last week. And that's it.
Mazel tov.
I don't have grandchildren getting married, and there's no doubt I will not be around if and when my grandchildren get married. Thank you.
I have a little video clip I'd like to show, a little PowerPoint presentation, and then thereafter we'll carry on listening to everybody's stories. I just put this together from all the photos that you shared with me and our group, and I had Maish and Ilana in, and they came and gave me a whole bunch more, so I hope you enjoy this. Really? I'm sorry, apparently there's no sound. I'm just going to quickly redo it and see why. One moment. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why you can't hear any sound. One second. Okay, let's see now. All right, I'm going to try again. I'm not sure why this is happening. Give me a minute. I'm not sure. Apparently there's no
I can
sound.
hear
and I've
sound. I
got-
can hear you.
No, can you hear can you hear the music on the video?
No.
No. I'm not sure why that's happening. Let me see quick.
It doesn't
I can
really
sing
make
for
it.
you.
Gita, do we need the music?
No, you don't. So I'll just play it again. It's Sunny and Sure. I got you, babe. Here it comes. All right. Turn it off. Sorry, the sound didn't work, but at least you got to see all the photos.
Can you put the last slide on again with the
Sure.
our departed classmates?
Sure.
Thank you. I don't know about everybody else, but I was shocked that it's such a long list. I have no
It is
idea.
a terribly long list. Let me just get it up again. Sorry.
Yeah, I am.
As Hilton Sachs wrote today, Minda.
Yeah.
One second. Can you see it?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I counted 23. It's just heartbreaking.
I think it's the longest list I've had.
Yeah. It's well over 20% of our graduating class. We were 109. This is 203, so.
Yeah.
Could you
It
send
is very
us
sad.
Or should I say at least 80% of us are still around.
That's how
That's better than 20% have gone.
Yeah, I think Oshi was asking, would you be able to send us that list?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Jeanette, we can hear you.
Well, I'm on my iPad. Who would have thought a computer doesn't work and my iPad does? Go figure. But anyway, I have to just pick up on something that Ilona said. Ilona, you were the lady I admired most because of the work we did preparing for the matric dance. Who else remembers the hours and nights that we spent painting those windows, praying the fire department wouldn't come in because we covered everything? You were above and beyond amazing. And from the conversation that you and I had a few months ago, you're such a great achiever. We love you and we think you're brilliant. And I'll never forget that experience. I mean, that gelled to me what King David was all about. We just showed up, and whatever alone is to take a pink brush and go there, go to the other classroom and go there. And I hope somebody has pictures. I had a few little ones of what we did. So Ilona, sweetheart, you are the best.
Thank you. And I just have to say thank you very much, because all I can remember from that experience, which I loved and which set me on my path, was that I was so rude to Ian Brody, and I so wished he would be here today so I could say sorry. It's not. So if anybody's in contact with him, I apologize to him for being so rude, and because he was just fooling around and I told him to either stay or leave. I was very kind of imperious about it, and I do apologize. I should have been much softer and more, how shall I say, generous with.
Did he stay?
Yeah. He did. Yeah, he did stay. I think. Yeah, I think he stayed, but I was so shocked myself at my horrible irritation with him. Sorry, Jeanette, go on.
No, I mean, maybe Ian remembers that I don't see you in that light at all. And after this meeting in a day or two, I'd love to actually speak to you again. But also picking up on what Moshi said, probably most of us who are online then feel this bond of King David. I mean, we've been to an Oshi concert at the Great Hall. I've seen him at Santon Shore when I was visiting, and in Cape Town when 3 cousins were there. You know, I feel that's my classmate, that's Oshi. You know, I don't know if Oshi cares at all, but it meant a lot to me. And then when we were in Israel a few years ago, it was just after we'd started and unfortunately did not get our previous reunion together. So I contacted some of the people in Israel and I said, well, we're staying at this hotel in Tel Aviv. Why don't you come over? So, you know, people said, yeah, they'll come. And then Evelyn said, no, that's nonsense. You come to my house. And that's what she did. She organized and we came. And John, you remember you were there? John Marco and you and Clive very kindly came along with me. And thank God for John, because they could talk about Harleys. And that was just so meaningful. And then Stevie, and I'm so pleased you're online, because at that same time we went to my nephew got married, went to a Shiva Brochus at some kibbutz near Haifa, and I'd contacted Stevie and I said, I'd love to get together with you and see a little bit about Haifa. He says, leave it to me. He got the address of the kibbutz and he arranged what time he was going to pick us up on the Saturday night, on the Sunday morning early. And then I texted him, I said, you know, I've actually found out I can catch a bus to Haifa. Why don't I meet you there? So he says to me, no, I've planned a whole trip for you. I'm coming and I'm picking you up. And that's the story. Where's Steve? I can't see you now. Where is he? Oh, there you are. And we had the most outstanding day with you. You were an incredible host. And I'm so pleased I listened to you and waited for you to pick us up, because we stopped at such interesting places along the way. And again, I think that Stephen and I haven't been in contact much before and not even after, but it was such a meaningful experience for us. And I thank you so much for that. And also, we've seen Moshe and Ilana in Joburg. The one time it was so funny. I was staying at my sister's apartment, and for some reason, the remote didn't work. Do you remember this night, guys? And my sister's place had one row of homes here and one row of homes there. And the row that I was staying in couldn't get in. I see a car coming to the other one. So I run out my car, leave it running. I say, excuse me, do me a favor. I can't get into my apartment. I look and I said, hi, Lana, hi, Mori. And that was fun. But we sort of kept in touch a little bit. Okay, so I left King David, went to Wits and did a science degree. And then I started working there as a computer program and analyst in the days when you didn't even touch the computer. You wrote things on coding sheets, as my kids refer to that. Oh, well, that was in the dark ages, Mom. I said, thanks a lot. And I moved to Durban and did the same sort of thing. And then I met Clive, met on the beachfront on North Beach, where one does meet one's partners in Durban. And we were in Durban for quite a few years. We have 2 boys. One lives in Rockville, so Michael, I'm going to, when we finish, make sure that we get in touch. And he's married and he has 2 lovely grandchildren. Thank God all of our grandchildren are wonderful. And one day we should actually have a grandchild reunion. It'll be such vast numbers, it'll be amazing. Our oldest grandchild is now at the University of Maryland, which is very close to where they live, which is great. The other one's in high school. My other son, Andrew, lives in Austin, Texas. Interesting, real quick. He started out in computers and became, like the chair of architecture of his company. And then the company was being taken over by another company and the dynamic was going to change. So he took a severance package and said he wants to think about life for a few months. Thank God he could afford it. And now he's gone in a completely different way. He's enrolled as a student at NYU to do a master's in counseling and mental health. And this apparently has been his passion for years, and power to him for pursuing it. Then when we left, so we were in Allentown, and then we moved to, and Gary is in Maryland, Andrew's in Texas. None of them are in Allentown. One of the reasons we were thrilled to be in Allentown is some of you remember my sister Sharon, and she was living in Philly, and she passed nearly 15 years ago. And after that, and our 2 kids left, Clive said to me, let's go and explore. And my sister-in-law had a place in Florida, so we went, we found a place in Delray Beach. We had the 2 homes just for a short while, but after Sharon was no longer there, we decided we were going to move to Florida permanently. So we're here in Delray. And Clive, when you were talking, I was busy trying to get my sound worked out, so I don't know exactly where you are in Florida, but maybe we could get together as well.
That's funny.
And let me see if I've left out anything. Oh yeah, when I got to
put myself on viewing now.
Not me.
No, you won't be.
When I got to Allentown, and my kids were busy at school, I thought I'm going to try and do a postgraduate degree. So I went to Lehigh and did an MBA. Have I used it? No. But anyway, I did it. I've got the certificate to prove that I did it. And then just one other thing, here we are successful on Zoom. We're now in one of these active adult communities, 55 plus, and yeah, we qualify. And one of the things that was, if you can say terrific, not terrific, that we benefited from COVID was we all stuck at home. I was involved in our book club in our community. Thank God at the same time as COVID, Zoom really got quite big and we were able to figure out how to use it. So instead of reading 1 book a month, we now read 2 books a month. And because you're on Zoom and the whole world is on Zoom, we would often contact authors and they would come and speak to us at our book club. We had about 15 authors in the 2.5 years we're still doing Zoom because we have snowbirds who are, back wherever they are, so they can access us. But the best part is having it in person. And let me see if I've left out anything else. No, I've mentioned, and Melanie will talk as well. Melanie has a daughter who lives very close to us. So I see her whenever she comes to visit her daughter. And fortunately, I don't have a reason to go to South Africa anymore, but it was always fun to see Moshe and Ilana. I would see Merle Green, Merle Josh. I would see Hazel Orlovitz because she was friendly with mutual friends in South Africa. We had a wonderful lunch, the whole lot of us. And one time I bumped into Stuart Bucksbone, and you say that you recognize people. We was at a movie at the Great Synagogue and came out to have coffee, and I'm looking at the back of the hall, and there's somebody I know so well. Stuart recognized me, I recognized him, and we just had a lovely chat. And, you just connect like that, like no years have passed. And I look forward to hearing everything else. David, David Goss, I'll call you in a day or 2 and discuss what we discussed. And lovely to be here. Thanks for organizing it, Gila.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining. I'd like to introduce you Raylene Tradonsky. So as I said, she runs the King David Schools Foundation. I don't know where she gets the energy, but as I said, she is currently in Cape Town seeing donors. She actually saw one about an hour ago, so there's no rest. Hello, Raylene.
Hi, guys. So what a treat to be here. Can you see and hear me, Gil?
Yes.
Okay, so if I look a little bit younger than you and you all think I've aged very well, it's because I've just had my 40-year reunion, not my 60-year reunion. So that might explain that away. But I'm Raylene Tradonsky. For those of you who don't know me, I run the King David Schools Foundation. As Gila mentioned, a job that I'm terribly passionate about. I'm a little bit of a nutter, but I did have my education paid for at King David many, many years ago. And so I always start by saying I was a subsidy kid. I felt very strongly that King David had chartered my life. I went on to become a chartered accountant. I then met my wonderful husband. And many years later, after spending 20 years in commerce, I was asked to come back and run the King David Schools Foundation, having also dabbled with fundraising. And so here I am. I won't be long, I promise, but I want to always start after my introduction by just thanking my wonderful, wonderful colleague, Gila. I did laugh, Ilona, when you said you wondered who brought their grandchildren on. Gila's even younger than me, but she's a totally passionate employee. And for those of you who don't know, we run about 8 Zoom reunions a year, and for both high schools, Linksfield and Victory Park, and it's hours and hours and hours of work tracing the Davidians, finding where they are in the world. And just a huge shout out, Gila. We really are indebted to you for all the hard work and labor of love. So thank you. I just want to say how wonderful it is to hear all the fond memories. The Oosters are one of our favorite stories of a true love story that started at King David. And as they say in the classics, Kei Kuleke no. But yes, just wonderful to hear about your 5 children, your grandchildren. Just what a beautiful blessing. And may you have many, many, many more happy years together. I think, as Oshi mentioned, there are only 34,000 Jews left in South Africa. It's one of the tragedies of the Johannesburg Jewish community, is more than 65% that we know about have left. In its height, the Johannesburg or the South African Jewish community was 120,000 Jews. Most of whom, depending on which articles you read, about 85% had come from 22 shtetls in Lithuania. But today that number has dwindled right down to 34,000. We are still an incredibly tight community. We are an incredibly passionate community. We are an incredibly Zionistic community. We really look after our own. And if you ask, as I did a few months ago, a non-Jewish friend of mine, how many Jews she thought there were in South Africa, they'll tell you millions, or at least 1 million. Well, talk about punching above our weight. We know that there's only about 34,000 of us, so we make a big noise. But what is real is that people that have left South Africa have left with talent and with money. And so what we have left behind is a community that is very much older and, dare I say it, very much poorer. And so what I do, guys, is I go all over the world and I meet with alumni. Because today's school fees are 200,000 Rand a child per year, or roughly $10,000 US. Just to give you an idea, when I had our reunion just a few weeks ago, our 40-year reunion, I asked the class what school they thought school fees were in those days, and it was 4,000 Rand 40 years ago. So I wonder what it must have been in 1965. Anyone has a guess? I have no idea. But it couldn't have been more than about 1,000 Rand. Today it's 200,000 Rand. So I go all over the world. I meet with alumni because today we have over 500 children that simply cannot afford our school fees. And unlike many countries in the world where the public school system is wonderful, our public school system is in crisis, unfortunately. And so the number of Jewish families that choose to send their children to King David is probably one of the greatest in the world. We have a very extraordinary and unique set of circumstances, highest concentration of Jewish children in Jewish day school, and we run a massive, massive subsidy budget. $2 million a year, or 40 million Rand, is what I'm tasked with to go fund. And so you heard me say I go all over the world. I go a lot to the States. I go to Israel. I go to the UK and to Australia. We have tax deductible entities in all of those countries. So if there is anybody sitting on this call who would like to consider giving back to King David, whether it's a scholarship, whether it's a debit order, whether it's 180 Rand a month, $180,000 a month, please feel free to reach out.
1 minute
Yeah,
left.
I'm done. I'm just saying, please feel free to reach out to me. We'd love to tell you more about the school, what we're doing. And just thank you. Thank you for coming on. Enjoy the reminiscing, and I'm going to love and leave you. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rayleigh. Nice to see you and keep up the good work. Melanie Matchett, do you want to say hello and tell us all about you? You have to unmute yourself. You're still muted. No, you're still muted. There we go. Hello.
I said, it's so exciting listening to everyone's stories, and compared to them, mine is very boring. So I married a wonderful man, Selwood Mashett, and we've been married for 53 years and still going strong. And he had a financial services business, and I was his bookkeeper. He was also a Springbok squash player, so he played competitively all around the world. And he schlepped me with him so many times. That was great. It allowed us to see all the world. And we had 3 beautiful girls, but sadly we lost my eldest daughter at 18 to a drunk driver. We also have a set of twins, Nikki and Lauren, who are married to 2 great guys who produced 7 grandchildren. And Nikki lives in Boca Raton and married to her high school sweetheart, also from King David. She was in Form 3 and he was in Matric. And they are now living the American dream. And Lauren is also married to a lovely guy. They still live in Johannesburg. And we are retired now, so we are full-time grandparents and travelers. And I feel very blessed and grateful how my life has turned out. And thank you for this reunion. God bless.
Very nice.
David, how are you?
David, me?
David, you?
I'm fine. Lovely seeing everybody. It's really a crazy memory tapestry looking across the screen at all these faces. And the memories flood back, and I thought I was suffering from amnesia, but I remember stuff. Moshe, we used to call you Moses. Moses, you said the Israeli fleet showed up at the school. In fact, I even remember the name of the ship. It was called the Misgav. Do you remember that? Ilona, you mentioned the school dance. The theme was Night Beat, if you recall. So all of these memories flood back, and it's just wonderful to see everybody, to see people who were at the Ulpan with me. I mean, Clive was there. Ezra was there. Ezra will remember the famous story of Alan Lipworth and Ezra. Alan, do you remember that famous story where you threatened to murder him? I don't know, but all of these wonderful memories come back. It was such a rich and wonderful, I won't say childhood, but it seems like a childhood long ago, but so important and so pivotal to where we went. So what did I do? I became a lawyer in South Africa. I practiced for about 8 years. Left in 78, went to New York, 4 years in New York, 4 years in LA, 9 years in Australia, back to New York, and I'm still in New York, where I'm still very active in business. In fact, I'm going to Singapore next week. I was there 2 weeks ago, so I travel around a lot and still fully employed. I guess I have to be because my daughter, I have 1 daughter, 1 grandchild, as I say, 1 daughter, 1 grandchild, 1 son-in-law. And my daughter is a starving actress, so I guess I'm going to still have to work for many, many more years to come. But that's my pleasure, and I enjoy it. My daughter, son-in-law, and grandson live in LA, so every 6 weeks or so we go over there. King David actually cultivated what I call intermarriage, where you married other people from King David. So I guess Moshe is a prime example. I also married somebody from King David. And actually my brother-in-law is on here, Brian Katz. He's my brother-in-law. I married his sister, Karen. We've been married almost now 53 years. And we've only had 1 argument in all of that time, and it's still going. But anyway, apart from that, life is good. We are very, very active. We enjoy life. We travel. We see our grandson. We see our daughter and son-in-law. I just really enjoy the fact that we can all sit down together after so many years. And as everybody has said, it is absolutely like yesterday. I remember all of you, and I think I've got a story about each and every one of these people here, including Brian, my brother-in-law, who came late to assembly one day, and I sent him to be caned, and he still remembers it. Anyway, that's all I've got.
Please tell us a bit about how it was growing up at home with your dad so actively getting the school going.
Well, it was a wonderful upbringing. I was a bit of a rebel because I did everything that my father said you shouldn't. But I think he was a wonderful guy in the sense, and Ilona's nodding because obviously her father and my father were intimately involved. In fact, when Ilona was a little girl, I'll remind you of this, you won't even remember this, her father was with my father at the Board of Education, and she used to call her father the Bird of Education.
I do
remember that?
My name, and I still think of him as the Bird of Education.
How did Bird come about?
He was, and I remember Uncle Ronnie, as we used to call him, a wonderful man. Growing up with my father was an interesting experience because although he was a rabbi and a scholar, he was very open-minded to the crazy ideas I had about different things. So every day and every meal was an active debating society. I think that up until I turned about 40, I thought my father knew nothing. And at about the age of 41, I said, geez, he's learned a lot in the last few years. But he was a really fine gentleman. He was a true gentleman, and he always taught me the one basic concept which I still try to live by. He said, have your feet firmly planted in your tradition and your eyes and heart survey the world. And that's what he was. Although he was a rabbi, he was open to all kinds of ideas. He was even open to my rebelliousness. And to this day, I kind of regret that I wasn't maybe perhaps a better son. But then I say, in terms of the Jewish tradition, when people say, do you do this, do you do that? I say, not yet. I'm still hoping to get there. I might one day. So that's sort of in short.
Oh, wow. I've always wondered what he was like, you know. When people come around the school, I say that it was Rabbi Goss, Max Greenstein, and Louis Sachs. And I'm sorry to see Hilton isn't on here, who campaigned to get the school going. So, like,
and it was an uphill fight because, you know, I just heard Raleen say that so many Jewish kids are going to the school. In the beginning, many people had the view that it was wrong to isolate your children and send them for Jewish education. They felt that going to public schools was a better thing. It wasn't a slam dunk. But over the years...
Still the same. It's still the same. The children go to Redham, Red Hill, Crawford, whatever, because they want them to know, to experience other cultures.
Well, I think that, again, back to what I said, you should be grounded in your culture, and then
there we go.
You can experience the rest.
Oh, I'm going to use that going forward.
Well, as long as you send me 10%.
Deal. I'll get Raylene to come and see you when she's in New York and you can sign something out.
Okay.
I'll tell you something, David, if I may interrupt. Elliot used to go further than that. He would say that he would always tell the story about how your father went with the two other founders to raise money. And he said they came across such opposition because people said it was just after the Holocaust. And people said, why do you want people to be in a school where they're only Jews? There will be, you know, people will know them to be Jewish and they'll be targeted. So there was enormous opposition to them starting a Jewish school, having just come off the Holocaust.
Well, I'll just give you one last little word of wisdom, which my father taught me. He said that building the school or building anything is an act of faith. And, you know, some people don't have faith. So he said, for the man of faith, there are no questions. And for the man without faith, there are no answers. I think it was
and Elliot quoted that many times. Yeah.
And that is really what it takes to do anything. I think even business, if you don't actually believe it, there's no way to be persuaded of it.
Can I just add something? Because as you mentioned, David, my dad was intimately involved as well. My dad worked all his life at in the foundation of, helping with the foundation of King David, and he was really very integral in the fundraising side. He was the secretary of the Jewish Board of Education.
He was the bird. The
Oh,
bird.
wow.
He was the
What
bird.
was his name, Ilona?
His name was Ronnie Mashaka.
Oh.
But I just want to say, because my dad was such a modest person and so reticent to put himself forward, that I feel I have to just stand up for my dad.
Oh,
Yeah.
you should. And the one thing I admired about your father, most of all, he was a most amazing son. I never forget how he looked after his father. And if I can just give you one little anecdote, my partners, it's a Singapore bank. The very first board meeting I went to at the bank, the founder of the bank, who was an absolute genius guru, first board meeting, I thought, what are we going to talk about at this board meeting? I better be prepared. I had all my notes. And the meeting started, and the chairman, this gentleman, said, it has come to my attention that somebody on this board is not looking after their parents properly. And I want you to know there's no place on this board for people who don't take care of their parents. That taught me a great lesson, that great businesses are built on values. If you have the right values, you can build a great business or a great enterprise or a great family or a great school. And I think one of the things that was always valuable about King David was the values that it created. And I think we are all testament to it, because we're all here and we've all, I would say, done relatively well in all our various endeavors. And I think it was not so much the facts we learned, but the values we learned.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, because I know, living in England and mixing with lots of Jews as well as non-Jews, what King David gave me was such an integrated feeling of who I am, that I've never questioned it. I've never thought that it has to be justified. It just flows out of me as if everybody should know this. And when they don't, the frustration is enormous, because I almost don't have the language to make people understand the background that King David just put in you. I don't know where it came from. I don't even remember getting it or receiving it.
It was osmosis.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you so much. I could listen to the two of you forever. Carol, I'd love to hear from you.
Gila, if I could just add something to what David said and what Ilona has said. My family, I have 3 sisters. I had 3. We were 4 of us. And in 1948 is when my eldest sister enrolled at King David's School. Now, I always have this vision of what went on. There were the thinkers of King David's School, the Louis Saxes, the Rabbi Isaac Gossers, the Ronnie Mashakers, the Louis Drukers, who sat around a kitchen table. I like to maybe dramatize a little bit. Europe was smoldering still. And these men took a decision that Jews must be educated as Jews. And my parents took my eldest sister. She was one of the first to register. And I would think that Mickey, David's sister, was too, one of those very original students of King David's School. We then all went through King David's School, and that original picture of ours in grade 1 was the bowling green of King David's. It was from when everybody bought the school. Or got the school as a donation. So out of King David's School came a whole system of education in South Africa. Each one, in the terms of our tradition, a yesh me'ayin. From nothing, there was King David, and there were all the other schools. And whether you believe them politically or otherwise, it's irrelevant for now. The schools developed because those men sat around the table and thought and dreamed and did what they did. And this is, we are part of the result of what they did.
Absolutely. Carol, how are
Okay.
you? Where
I'm
you?
good. I'm in London.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for arranging this, Gila. It's been,
My pleasure.
you know, like everybody else, I'm feeling overwhelmed by it. It's really lovely to hear everybody's stories. I didn't go to King David Primary School, and I only joined in Form 3, having lived in Israel for 2 years, because my father was a barrister and sent us out of South Africa after Sharpeville because he was worried there was going to be another Holocaust. That's the story I was told. He may have a different story, but I also can't remember everybody, and I notice people have got notes, so my memory is not that fantastic. But what I do remember is the streaming of the classes, so that you were very close to people in your class, in your stream, but actually you didn't, except for things like the school dance, and I so remember the painting, and Ilona directing us all, and I was getting indigestion, actually, I remember that. But it's those kind of memories that are so important. So I will go on. I haven't got notes. I left South Africa in 75. After King David, I did a psychology degree. Ilana, we must have been together. And then did a teacher training before I left. Then I came to the UK and I trained as a child and adolescent psychotherapist. And I only retired from my job in the NHS as a consultant child psychotherapist, heading a pediatric mental health liaison service in a hospital 3 months ago. So I have been working constantly since then. Somebody was talking about having an only child. I also have an only child. I have several stepchildren and step-grandchildren, but I have my own child who I think is responsible for keeping me working all these years, because they're very demanding, and if you have one child, you really want to make sure they actually have a good life. So I have a lovely daughter who went to Oxford. She's now working as a general manager in a hospital, earning a fortune, the same as I was earning, but I still feel I've got to support her. And so I still work privately. I've got a private, I do consultation and supervision, but I've actually stopped seeing patients. And that is my story.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, sorry. I'm also married to, sorry, I've got Ilona directly in my eyesight. I do know, I married Terry Jones, who worked at the Slade for many, many years, and he does know you, Ilona. Yeah, he told me. So there are connections that sort of
I remember him.
do
Gosh,
occur.
I wish he'd told me. I wish he'd mentioned something.
I don't think he realized that you and I knew each other. But
yeah. Gosh.
How far do you live from each other?
Probably.
I'm in Alexandra Park.
Okay, we're not that far. I'm in West Hampstead.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Not so far.
Very near. Yeah.
Yeah.
we did bump into each other one day. Yeah, Ilona recognized my hairstyle. Apparently it hadn't changed.
No, it not only your hairstyle, you as well. And I mean, after this, you need to arrange to meet up, because
I think that would be lovely. Yeah,
so close.
You're much busier than I am at the moment. I'm enjoying retirement. It's lovely.
Yeah. Well,
we're leaving for Madeira tomorrow and be traveling and seeing things, going to the theatre, just doing as much as we couldn't do before.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
enjoy every minute of it. Post
Thank you,
pictures,
Gila.
make us all jealous. Joy, welcome to the group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talking.
Thank you.
Hi, we can hear you.
I said thank you.
You're welcome. Where you?
in Durban.
Oh, you're still in Durban. Oh, that's stunning. What's the weather like? Terrible. I'm sorry, I forgot. Rule 3 was no weather. How did you end up in Durban?
My husband was given a transfer from Johannesburg to Durban.
Okay.
He
Do
was
you want to
working
tell us
for
a bit about yourself?
Not really, because I've got very little to talk about.
Okay. You don't have to. Where in Durban do you stay?
In Issenwood Road, opposite Coronation Road.
We lived
Next
there for a
time,
while.
next time we're up that way, we will definitely come and say hello.
Would you mind if hubby steps in here with
Go
permission?
for it, hubby.
I'm Morris Sacher. Rhoda hasn't been well, so hence coming over slowly there. We got married in 1970. In 72, as she said, we moved to Durban. We have 3 sons, one in Israel, one in Australia, and our son Joel, very involved in the Waverley Shore. I think Oshi knows, Oshi Tuganov will know him well. I went into business. I retired as a CEO of Toys R Us South Africa, which we built up. On Rhoda's side, she's got a Bachelor of Musicology, and she taught music for quite some time. And she did pick up an illness last April, which is, you can probably hear it in a low voice and that. I won't go into the specifics, but I don't know if I've given you a little background there.
Thank you.
I reckon that's between my parents, myself, and all the grandkids, Toys R Us is plenty.
Oh, well, thanks for supporting us.
Thanks for keeping our children entertained.
I'll tell you a little story why I went into the baby and toy business. When I was looking to go into business, someone told me there are only 2 businesses that work. I said, what are they? What are they? They said, people are born and people die, and you don't look like an undertaker. So hence I chose the baby business, which developed into toys, which I was in for 40 years in that business.
Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks. Ezra, hi.
You're on mute.
Unmute.
Yes, here
There we go. There we go.
Okay, so I'm Ezra. I'm half asleep in Boca Raton, Florida. I think, can you hear me all?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you.
So I think my wife, Marion, who was Marion Glass, got more out of King David than I got out of King David, because she has, for the last 33 years or so, been teaching Hebrew University's International Judaics program. And the Hebrew University honored her as a master teacher, which is like a teacher's teacher. So that's Marion. We have 2 daughters, 5 grandchildren. I put in the ketubah an order that says, thou shalt not live more than 25 miles from thine parents. So they're all accessible, including, and I see Jeanette, who's accessible as well. Background, I was also at King David, of course, and then went to Wits. I studied law. I joined the firm Worksmans. I was a partner there for quite a number of years. Then I went to Israel. I did the Israel Bar, and we ended up here in Boca Raton, which I heard someone call Rocky Baton. Well, anyway, it's Boca Raton. And it's a fairly nice place to live. There's a nice Jewish community. We only have 2 seasons, hot and hotter. As for what I've been doing with myself, I still keep my international law license. Some may know I tinkered around and I wrote a book which was nominated for the International Jewish Book Award, sorry, the National Jewish Book Award, and it's done quite well. I do spend quite
What is it called?
It's called A House Too Small, and it's received some significant awards.
It's very good.
Who said that?
Me, Ilona. I read it. And
Well,
I
you're entitled to be wrong, but anyway. And since then, I have written another couple of manuscripts. The most recent one is about 400 pages. It's a novel set in the Second World War in Europe, and is about a young Jewish woman who escapes to England from Norway. As far as the literary world is concerned, it's a disaster. It's nothing like when we were growing up because the whole industry has changed, but I won't bore you with that. As I'm speaking to you, and I'll keep this brief, I'm in my home office, and I have three photographs on my wall, which you cannot see. One is of the prefects in 65. The other is the kindergarten picture, grade 1, which you showed us. And the third one is a photograph of my father, my late father, Samuel Chummy Hirschman, who, amongst many other things, was the founder of the precursor to El Al in South Africa, which was called Universal Airlines. And the photograph I'm looking at is a little pin, lapel pin, with the emblem of Universal Airlines being on the first run from Lida, as it then was, Lord Airport, to Palmytfontein. I think it was the precursor of Jansmats and now whatever it's called. So, of course, it's been interesting. And basically, that's all I need to say, because other people have got more interesting stories.
Ezra, when Raylene comes to Boca in May, I'm going to send her to you so you can sign a copy for me. I've got quite a few of Davidian's books signed, so I need to add you to my collection.
It will be a pleasure. And if I may just add one thing about this book, which I've kind of almost forgotten about, is that I had a call from somebody who I hadn't seen. This was about a week ago. I had a call from somebody I hadn't seen for 50 years. And he called me up and he said, "I got your book. Would you sign my book for me?" And I said to him, "Who are you?" You know? So there are strange connections through the literary world and through the legal world. But thank you for hosting this. It's been a wonderful experience.
Thank you. Thank you for taking Raylene out for coffee when she comes so that you can sign my book.
With pleasure.
Now, after that self-serving note, Gilda, how are you? Do you want to unmute? Thanks, Ezra. You still muted?
There, I'm clear. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wonderful. As you know, I managed to matriculate in 1965, and I seem to find a lot of people here who've done the same. I then went on to study, and I did library science as part of my BA. Went to Wits, from King David to Wits, and I met my husband there. We got married in 69. And just a lot of traveling, and then about 10 years later, we decided we need a family, and I had two wonderful sons. One lives in Sydney with us, well, not with us, but in the same city, and the other one lives in London. Further than that, I helped my husband. He ran an accounting business, and I was the admin lady there. And then when he decided he'd had enough and he wanted to retire from the practice, he wasn't retiring from work, but just from the practice. I looked around for something to do, and I became interested in politics. I'm not a politician, so don't kind of get all agitated, but I did join the Democratic Alliance, and I became a city councillor. And I must tell you, those were some of the best years of my life. It was fascinating working with people from all walks of life. I went to the area I dealt with was Santon. Santon was my ward, and I had very little to do with the townships. What I do remember about being at the townships was that you had some people who had literally nothing. It was in this terrible period where you had youngsters who'd lost their parents due to to AIDS. And because of that, you had 16-year-olds who were the primary caregivers and looking after their brothers and sisters. And I'll never forget, they came to us and we had a talk by a 16-year-old who tried to explain to us, do you understand the concept of my no parents around? You've been out all day trying to get work as a 16-year-old with no education and coming back and hearing your brothers and sisters going and raiding the fridge in the hope of finding food, only to discover there was nothing there. That was such an eye-opener, because us, having come from King David, we were not open to this kind of experience. And I'm very grateful for the fact that I was able to enter this world and do something constructive to help others. The other thing that I think I shared with some of you is I sent an email regarding my family and my family's history. Both my mother and my father spent 2.5 years in Nazi concentration camps. They weren't lucky enough to be liberated or anything until the end of the war. And they had a little girl of 5 years old, and he was sent to Auschwitz. We don't know whether she made it to the gas chambers or whether she died on the way there or what happened. But we do know that that's the main reason I'm an only child. My mother wanted children. My father said we can't after what we've been through. And she did win out. But once I was born, he said, that's it, we're not having any more. He was old and broken and couldn't handle the idea of a bigger family. Anyway, that was me and my family. My children, my youngest son didn't want to, he didn't get married. My oldest son has got 2 gorgeous kids. Unfortunately, they live in London. I've been in Australia since the year, I think, 2007. And it's been a good life, I must admit. And while I was here, I decided to go back to my Jewish roots. And I worked at the Jewish Library in the Jewish Museum. And it was also a great opener. I spent 12 years there. And after 12 years, I said, okay, it's time to retire. It was about 5 years. And now I'm retired. I play kaluki, I play bridge, and I do all those interesting things. And that's about where I stand in this community.
Thank you so much for coming on. It must be really late, so I appreciate it.
Yes, 12:30 at night.
Oi, good morning.
Yes, well, I had a nap and my husband woke me at 10 to 11. Otherwise, I'd never reached it. Yeah.
Elaine, hi.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
So, I've got a little visitor here that insisted he also come on. His name is Claude Monet, little pet toy poodle.
Oh,
Claude
sweet.
Monet, 70, and he stood up here and wanted to sit on the chair with me. So here he is. Now,
hello.
What I did, where do I begin? after school.
Where do you stay?
We live in Cape Town now, but we lived
Okay.
for the earlier part of our lives in Joburg. We've only been in Cape Town for 2 years.
Okay.
After school, I did a BA degree in languages, English and French, 3 years each. And then I was reluctant to go to the college and learn to cross the T's and dot the I's. So I really wanted to get into travel, which I did. I worked in travel for a short while, and not such a short while. Then I moved from one firm to another, and I got engaged to the most wonderful man called Lawrence Feenberg, one of 4 brothers, and he hails from Pietermaritzburg. After the, where was I? Yeah, so we got married and we lived in Durban for 2 years. I must say they were the dullest ever, ever, ever. People will not get up and go. They'd sit back and ask what happened, if it was going to happen, and did it happen? Nothing. So I wanted to do something, and I thought, well, what can I do? Travel wasn't very good there. Everyone was very jealous of their position. You might snatch it or whatever. So I wanted to go back to teaching. And at university, I was told, oh, you can't do that. You don't have a UED. So after a lot of, you can't do that, I went back to do a UED for a year at Natal University, which I enjoyed very much because they said if I didn't have a UED, I could not teach. So teaching was the name of the game. I had taught for a few months at Durban Girls College, which was a super experience in Musgrave Road, Berea. And I was looking forward to starting to teach. But without a UED, you couldn't even apply for a job. So then what would happen? My husband came along that last year of my UED and he said, we've got to move to Joburg. I said, I'm not moving to Joburg. I've got to finish what I started. I will finish my UED and then we can move on. So he moved on to Joburg and all over the world. He's a chemical engineer. And I stayed in Durban and finished what I had to do. Then I taught for a short while at Edenvale High School, which was not very pleasant. And after that, I had a baby and I didn't want to be a working mom. So I went to look after my baby. I was called back to come and teach, come and do, whatever. And what did I do after that? Then I went, what did I do after that? Then I had bought a wonderful set of books for my daughter. My husband had said to me, no, we can't afford them. We can't afford them. They're too expensive. We've got to keep money for the creepy crawly. We didn't even have pool, but we were having money for the creepy crawly. So I said, right, I will take this on. And I went to work for World Book and Childcraft, and that was a very successful time for me. I worked there instead of just a short while, because he still said to me, who are you going to work? Who are you going to sell to? I said, I don't know, they'll come. And after 19 years, I was finished with that. And that took me all over the world to all the international conferences. I met people from India and from Philippines, because when we were in South Africa at that time, you didn't know, you couldn't go to Philippines, and you certainly didn't know people in and out from India. So that was very, very, very interesting to meet people from all over the world. And I did that several times, and I saw a lot of the world. And thereafter, what was interesting, and in between World Book, I did a year at the state agency, passed the exam. That wasn't so wonderful to meet people near midnight to close the deal, but I had a year that was successful. And then, I don't know what I did. Oh, yeah. Then I went back to travel. And they said to me, you not going to take you. They're going to take the 18-year-olds. You can't come into travel. Anyway, I did a course with SAA and another course and another course, passed my exams, and I was ready to be enrolled somewhere. It wasn't easy, not at all, because those were the prime jobs in those days. They used to send you on wonderful educationals to different cities, to different hotels, to different amenities, and I was very interested in that. And so I worked in travel. I did all my travel exams, and I did work in travel. And then after about 3-4 years, it was just enough. It was a very demanding job. You're up till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, busy with people's bookings. And then I worked for a big company, but nevertheless, it was a, I don't want to say hell of a job, but it was a hell of a job, because you can do all the work, and at the very last minute, oh, Mrs. wants to go another day, change all the flights, all the everything. It's a whole to-do. But anyway, it was a very interesting job. I reckon I've had a very, very interesting time. And I loved all that Joburg had to offer, especially the Yiddishkeit. And I deeply miss it here. Where? When I was in Joburg with my friend Jocelyn Bessarabi, we started the Torah Academy, not the Torah Academy, we started the Milon Bina. And that was terrific. We had lectures every day. I was there for 4 years. And it was very interesting. So I've had a very interesting time. And now we're in Cape Town. I'm trying to make a life for myself. I've been challenged with illnesses. I've got arthritis and what's the other one? Rheumatoid arthritis, which affects the lung and the heart. However, beyond that, or with that, I still want to do lots. I'm interested in lots. We do whatever. We do choir here. We've got a music appreciation here. We're staying in a retirement home. Most beautiful, beautiful view. It's in Century City, the new part of Cape Town, and it's immaculate. It's beautiful. I can see from Table Mountain, all the mountains, all the way around the bay, all the way to Robben Island, and the entirety of Cape Town. And it's just too
That sounds so pretty. It really sounds like you had a really diverse life. Sounds wonderful.
No,
Stephen Lipschitz, how's Israel doing today?
Cold, cold, cold. We're not
Cold and
talking
wet.
about weather. Just a few words what I did. I left in 67, left Wits in 67, like John Marco, I think maybe Kenny Hyman as a volunteer. Kenny, were you a volunteer?
Yes.
I don't know.
Mid-Nadav, yeah, I was. Yeah,
Yeah, you
67.
also volunteered.
At Shamir. We were at Shamir.
Oh, we were together then. Right. Okay,
Yeah.
at Shamir.
And Munches, yeah.
And then after we'd been there a while, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. They said, study and we'll pay for everything. I said, all right. And I stayed on at the Technion, completed my chemical engineering, first and second degrees, got nabbed by a student from the Haifa University. They would come down from every Friday night from the Haifa University down to the Technion to find an engineer. And my wife found an engineer. She's never reconciled herself to it. But that's the way it was. We went to the States to do the doctorate. No, first of all, I did my master's, and then this guy who came to finish his master at the Technion called Ron Dembo. And Ron was there, and real playboy that guy was. And then he said he's going off to Case Western University to do his doctorate. I said, oh, go to the States. That sounds like fun. And I made a few inquiries myself. Eventually, I landed up at Minnesota, did my doctorate there, had 3 children in the States, and came back to Israel in 79. I've been working in the industry ever since. Retired a few years ago, but continued working 2 days a week at the same factory. 3 months ago, I decided that was it, and I finally cut off all kinds of gainful employment. I still do volunteer work. 3 children, a boy and 2 girls, 9 grandchildren, 3 each. We live in Haifa. The 2 kids live in the Tel Aviv area. And my daughter got fed up with the judicial reform and all that stuff going on in Israel, and she went to live in Cyprus. So Tel Aviv is an hour away, and Cyprus is also an hour away, except you have to fly to Cyprus. So it's not so bad. But what I really wanted to say is that this group is a very special group, in the first sense that those of us who went to the primary school were one of the first classes at the primary school, and we all remember Frida Meyer and the bowling green, and my father, of course, as the principal. And it wasn't only that we were the one of the first classes, but our parents were all interacting with each other in the era, in the region of the Jewish education. Rabbi Goss and of course Ilona's father, and Hilton isn't with us today, but Hilton's father and my father, and Ilona's house was almost my second house. We go there so often. And so it wasn't just a class of kids, it was a community of young people and their parents all interacting. I remember Ezra and Chubby Hirschman was known. Oh, everyone knew Chubby Hirschman. And that's what's really special, I think, about this group. Alan Lipworth, your father operated on my grandfather when he had something, I don't know what was, some kind of operation. We went to your house to do, we had a boxing thing at your house. I don't know if you remember that. I got clobbered on the ears and I ran away. That was it. But your father and my father and the family, they were all connected. All the families were connected, and it was really a beautiful time.
Wow, sounds magical. Ken, how are you?
I'm fine.
Where are you?
I'm in Sydney. And it's what's it now, Gilda?
Monday morning.
It's quarter to 1. But it's great being on this call, and I'm just looking around at all the faces. I think after about 15 minutes or so, I could recognize possibly 1 or 2 if they didn't have a name against them. But just lovely to see you all. So just a brief history of what I've done since I left school in 65. I went to Wits. I did a commerce law degree, and I went into financial services, particularly funds management. And it was probably I was about 15 years working for Sage Holdings, and then running a fixed interest broking business for a while before my wife and I emigrated to Australia in '88. And I stuck to my skill set, which was funds management, managing money. And I joined a large insurance company, combined banking insurance company in Australia. And I've effectively been with that same organization since 1989. So I developed an in-house funds management business, particularly in fixed interest, and that has grown, and it's been successful. And I've steadily extricated myself from it, most probably over the last 5-6 years, just pre-COVID. But I still stay involved. I still don't think there's enough of a legacy that I've left behind. So still do 1 day a week, which I really enjoy. I mentioned that married, but we haven't had no kids. So most of family interactions with my siblings and their extended families. Those siblings are my slightly older sister Jennifer and much younger brother David, who both live in the States, and their kids and obviously grandkids. So there's regular travels to catch up, and it's probably on an annual basis. It's been easier for us to travel from here than for them to travel. We get a bit more leave here in Australia. Outside of work, I've always been involved in the local Jewish community. Of late, maybe the last decade, I've been on the investment committee of the JCA. Gilda, you'll be familiar with the JCA, the Jewish Communal Appeal, which is the central funding body for the Jewish community of New South Wales and the ACT. And I'm also of late working with our shul, the congregation, on developing a future fund. I think this is something that's evolving around the world as the baby boomers who have been very successful and have tended to be, wherever they are, the key funders and supporters of major social initiatives, particularly within the community. And if you think of the struggle of our younger members of the shul, with kids, they how they can afford membership fees. So there's a lot of subsidies that need to be worked on, but there's more than that. I think it's living wills. Don't leave it in your will and then find that your kids and family, extended family and community would say, gee, that's fantastic. How good it would have been if we could have had that 20 years ago when we really needed it. And the community really needs it now. So what we're looking to do is to build up this, we're calling it Future Generations Fund, and to press large donors to give now rather than waiting with legacies when ultimately they're going to pass away. So that's an interesting initiative, and Raylene, not dissimilar to some of the, particularly the work that you're doing, for King David, and you mentioned how difficult and how dependent the young people are on subsidies, and how we can just keep that momentum going. So also sport and activities, I've always been very active. I was an active cyclist, quite competitive until a bad accident about 10 years ago. But since then, taking advantage of Sydney's wonderful harbour and ocean around. So I'm really into surf skiing. That's on the ocean and on the harbour. And just recently, literally 3-4 weeks ago, we had a whole crowd and we were in Cape Town doing Miller's Run. And for those who know, Miller's Run is a downwind paddle from Miller's Point to Fishhook, getting that southeaster. That's the southeaster that used to chase us off the beaches at Muizenberg in the day. And at lunchtime, you'd get off the beach because the southeaster built up. Well, as a surf skier, as a paddler, that's when you want to be on the water, because you get these 50-kilometer winds blowing up your backside, and which is great fun. So yeah, I think that pretty well sums me up.
Thank you so much. Any shocks? Are you not nervous?
try not to think about them. I think that, you know, they definitely been are cited, and you know, with GoPros we have videos where somebody's told that after for the last 10 kilometers you actually had this fin that was not that far behind. But fortunately, my extended group, etc., we've been okay. We don't. We try not to think about them.
Okay.
Kenny,
David Block, on that
Kenny,
save note, how are you?
Kenny,
Thank you. I'm well. Thank you.
Kenny, do you remember the story about when we used to sit in class with Mrs. Lax? Do you remember? And we used to hum, and she used to say, "Who's humming?" And then you used to stand up. You remember that?
We used to stand up and end up getting 2 flaps from the boss, most probably.
Yeah. Who's humming?
She
And
was
I remember Garrett Infeld. She used to say in our class, "Who is making the noise?"
It was actually stop humming.
Yeah, stop humming.
Turn around from the board and we were quiet, and then turn back to the board and it was stop humming.
I also had not a confrontation with Mrs. Lax. I used to chat a little bit in class, as we all did. She says, "One day I want to take a bet that Jeanette can keep quiet the entire class."
Yes, I remember that.
I think I managed one class.
There were 2 Mrs. Laxes, the mother and the daughter, I believe.
The daughter was wonderful.
There was Celia Lax and whoever. There was
Celia.
Leah Lax.
Leah Lax.
Guys, I have the best Mrs. Lax story of all time. You know,
Yes.
so one day my parents are called into the boss's office, and there's Mrs. Lax and the boss, and they say, "Look, you know, we're going to offer you, you know, he can leave this school and we won't say a word and nobody will complain, and, you know, we'll give him a good reference, but just get him out of here."
Really?
And that was Mrs. Lax.
And what was the basis? What had you done?
Oh, I was a shit disturber in class, basically. And for my shit disturbing, in my first week at high school, I got 9 flaps, I counted. You know, I was sent to the bus 3 times, and, you know, you'd bend over with these little gray thin pants, and you could hear this thing whistling in the wind, and then it landed on your butt.
Did you not take onions to make the welts come up?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't
know
need
about.
onions. They came up.
Does anyone remember Pee Wee Pierce?
Yes.
Yeah.
He made me stand on the table. I'm sure it would be seen as child abuse now, but he made me stand on the table in a maths class. I think I was the only girl in the class. Does anyone remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Well, you know, Pierce did a deal with me. He said, "You know what? If you stand outside the room, I won't tell anybody." And I spent most of my last year at school outside of the class, so I didn't attend much math. But I'm a mathematician, and that's basically a funny story.
You obviously didn't need to attend any of the maths classes.
Probably not.
It's self-taught. Yeah, do you remember Mr. Erlang?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hendrik Erlang.
He used to stand and hit out with a ruler. He'd go around and hit everybody hard.
Can I just mention about Ronnie Dembo? The reason you got kicked out of class in Form 1, Ron Dembo, his maths was already at postgraduate doctorate level of university. And Pee Wee said, "You get out of my class while I teach maths because you're disturbing the class." He kicked him out of class every maths lesson. I remember that.
It was
It's true. I spent a lot of my time outside, and yeah, my memories are very much of those days. You know, like I don't remember really learning much, but I do remember, and I'm very grateful that I went to King David, because I do feel strongly about anti-Semitism and Judaism and so on, and training my kids. And on this, but like the worst of all was I took woodwork instead of doing history.
Yeah.
And he'd sort of, you'd have your fingers on the mat in front of you, and there, this guy, I can't remember his name, but he'd come with a ruler, bend it, yeah, and he'd flap your
Jannie
hand.
Jansen.
Yeah.
Jannie Jansen with the ruler.
And then you whack your hands. I mean, I think we most of our teachers would have been put in prison today. But anyway, I remember a few teachers like sort of those moments. But getting kicked, it was actually Erlang who kicked me out of class. And my sister, who's 3 years younger than me, walks into class on the first day of school, and they go around and he says, "Dembo, get out." So like, that was my life at King David.
I remember.
I have a very fond
But
memory
you
of
had
David.
an older brother there, Alon
Yes,
Dembo.
yes, Alon Dembo.
Very highly
Yeah, and he became a very famous medical person, but unfortunately died at a very young age.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and it's quite a sad story. But I have a very fond memory of David Garson. It's first day of sports in high school, and we were being taught how to tackle in rugby. So there's skinny little Ronnie, and I'm asked to run very slowly, and David has to tackle me. And David jumps on me and breaks my ankle, actually. You don't know this, David.
It's not true.
It's true.
What I loved were those rugby team photos. We looked so intense and tough, and I'll never forget the competitions we used to travel and go to help mekaar. And the Afrikaans, it was called the Administrators Cup. And I remember the rugby matches where we would sort of stand there and watch these guys running past us. We were totally hopeless.
Oh, God.
Talking about rugby,
yes.
We played a school on the West Rand, and the name of the school was Fakkel.
Yeah.
And what was the
lost, and we lost, I think, 100-0.
Correct.
Poor Mr. Sander, all he could say is that we lost 100-0. He really wanted to use other terminology to explain what had happened to us.
Yeah, Fakkel, I remember those games.
Yeah, I wanted to say, sorry.
The only team I think we ever beat was Herzliya. I think once.
But look on the other side of the coin. We also had a chess team.
Yes.
And we used to go and play all the Goyim chess. The Jews against the Goyim had no chance. We won the league every time. I remember when I was like in Form 2, I had to play some great big Afrikaner, and I did Fool's Mate. And he looks at me and says, "How old are you?"
I have my only honor in King David, because I used to shun all of those kinds of things, was getting colors in Form 2. What's it? Yeah, Form 2, the second year of high school, for playing chess. And I had actually traveled, to Cape Town playing chess and so on. But that was my claim to fame in the school. Otherwise,
Ron, where do you live now? Where do you live?
I live in Toronto. I live a very good life. I run a new startup. My third startup. I've done a lot of good things. My life left South Africa in '69. I graduated from Wits in chemical engineering. Went bumming around the world just to get away from South Africa. Basically, it was really an anti-apartheid sort of story. And landed up in Israel with $40 in my pocket, and went to the Technion. I said, "Would you take me on as a student?" to this professor I knew in chemical engineering, and he said yes. And I said, would you give me half a month's assistant salary so that I can rent a room? And he said yes. And then I did probably the best degree I've done in my life at the Technion. And from that degree, I actually got a job at Yale and an offer at Harvard at the same time. Essentially because when I graduated with a PhD, I already had really good publications, which were from the Technion. So that led to an academic life. I was a professor, and now I'm a recovering professor. I was a professor for 10 years at Yale. And at one point in my life at Yale, I got a summer consultancy at Goldman Sachs and discovered, that there's life after academia. I landed up moving to Toronto for family reasons, and then started a company which then did pretty well. We became the largest supplier of enterprise risk systems worldwide. I sold it, got into my passion for climate, and what I'm doing now is actually really a startup on taking on the world of climate change, basically. So, measuring the financial impacts of climate change. So it's doing very well. It's starting to take off at the moment. I've written lots of books and millions of papers, and sort of had a very good life running around the world, giving lectures and talking and presenting stuff. I still do some of that, but I'm still very active. I still swim every day. I started out at King David High, where I learned how to swim, and used to ride my bike from Orange Grove up the hill to school every day. And now it's become a religion. One of the things that's a challenge for all of us is the incredible rise of anti-Semitism, and we're starting to do work on, this is sort of my moonlighting on how to fight anti-Semitism with AI, and essentially tracing the money and where it comes from and where it goes to. So we're starting to bring a bit of AI into anti-Semitism fight. So my wife's a lawyer. We very happily married. We've got 4 daughters. It's a second marriage, and no grandchildren, and not many prospects for grandchildren. It's one of those, but a large range in age. The youngest is 21, the oldest is 46. And we have a farm outside of Toronto. That's where I am now. Just going to go for a little cross-country ski. There's a lot of snow out here today. And we just bought a house in Costa Rica, which is
beautiful.
And there's something very, very lovely about this, is there's a Shabbat club in this little town called Nosara. And every Friday when we're there, there's a Shabbat on the beach with challah made by some young Israeli. And there's a group of it's about 180 people now.
Wow.
Who usually about 30 at a time come. And there you are on a beach. It's incredible surf beach. So I go boogie boarding, much like I used to do in Durban, and haven't given up. I'm still a kid. And it's nice and you really appreciate the whole Yiddishkeit that we learned at King David. At the time I was there, I was a bit more of a rebel and didn't appreciate it. But I really, looking back, grateful to my mom, who was born in Jerusalem, one of the 6th generation of her family in Jerusalem, and met my father during the war, came back to Johannesburg, and insisted that my father give us all a Jewish education. And so they struggled actually to put 3 kids through King David. It was very expensive for them. My father came back from the war. He was a traveling salesman. Eventually, he started a schmutter business. And, you know, one of the first things I remember was my first job was selling some of his latest schmutters. And, you know, so I did this deal with him where I got some royalty on what I sold. He came out with this new product, and on day one, I sold 13 dozen of them, and took the money and gave it to a young black child to study through school. And that was my very first act of, you know, my parents wondered, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? But the funniest story was when I got my job at Yale, my father was really upset. He said, you know, I wanted you to be a businessman. Anyway, that's my little life story.
Ronnie, when you started the company in Toronto, who was your first employee?
My first employee was a guy called...
One of your first employees was my son.
He wasn't one of the first, but he was probably... He was employed when we were already rich and famous, so to speak. But
not the way he tells it.
But the first employee was a guy. I got the way I did it was I actually got a retainer on a consulting contract in Spain, and I with that went out and hired my first 3 people. They were students at the university, and then the company built up from that. But the first employee, your son joined at a certain point in time, and I wonder what's happened to him.
You're not going to get an answer from me.
That's right.
Not on this
I knew John and his wife, and I'm still very friendly with his ex-wife, Vivian, and anyway, his son was an employee of mine. Yep, that's right. Little bugger.
we have an alumnus that makes me wonder if you've ever come across him. He's also a professor on climate change, also ex-Davidian. He's one of 4 brothers, the Price brothers. Do you happen to know Professor Colin Price, who is the professor of environmental studies at Tel Aviv University?
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I basically have done some work with, and I'm still doing work with Tel Aviv University and an institute there called INSS. It's a think tank. We just did a study on the supply chain of Israel, actually.
Wow.
And the risk
I'd love
of
to make the intro, because I think hearing what you do and knowing what he does, I think there's could be some amazing collaboration.
Yeah, I'd like to meet him, because one of the problems we have with the group that we were working at INSS was, you know, a lack of technical knowledge. And but we just did a very interesting, you know, I proposed to them looking at Israel's supply chain, because simply when I first went to Israel, I was 16, everything in Israel was made in Israel, because you couldn't afford anything else. All the food was grown there pretty much. But today it's like any other country where 85% of the food is imported. And so Israel's at risk. Not only that, lots of other things like precious metals that you need to make iron domes and things like that are imported. So Israel is at quite at risk in the supply chain.
Amazing.
Please introduce us, yeah.
Thank you, Ron. That was very, very interesting. Dave Block.
Sorry, can I just
I have to
for a second?
I shouldn't say that my computer's going to be very slow. We've just gone into load shedding. So if I come and go, I'm in the dark. Sorry, Gilda.
All I got to say is that it's now after 1 o'clock. I've got to get up in the morning. You did say that you're recording this whole Zoom talk, and I'll be able to get it online.
Yep.
Sorry for
I'm going
that
to
I
email
haven't-
it.
Okay.
I'll
I'm really
email the
upset
link.
that I couldn't listen to everyone, but my bed is calling. Okay, thanks very much.
Gilda, I'm going to
Bye,
join
sweet
you.
dreams.
I'm going to
Okay,
say
and
goodnight as
I'm
well.
living in Sydney. If there's anyone else who's living in Sydney, please send me a mail link. I'll get together with you. Okay, thanks.
Will do.
Bye.
Okay, cheers as well.
Kenny, before you go, I'm just going to talk about the fact that I started Capri Weeders 40 years ago.
Of course.
And you and Mike Stanger and a lot of the guys in this group were members of that club, and we're still running today quite successfully. Oh, Brian Katz as well. Yeah. So it's really wonderful.
That's good to hear. That's
nice to see.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Cheers to all.
Yes.
Cheers.
Bye.
Okay, so let me continue.
Thank you.
I did not finish in your group, high school. The lady who was Dr. Thomas, our Latin teacher, made it clear that I would be the first failure of matric. So they asked my mother to remove me from the school. But I did attend 5 or 7 years at primary school, and those years, as I see you all here today, were the people that I shared my young life with at the time. I used to spend time at Ezra's house. Ezra, we used to do boxing with Jimmy Best down at the bottom there, and now I could go through with each one of you that I did have some connection. Michael Abramovitz, if you will remember, that we were started again, David Adom youth together with Hilton Sunday, my brother, yourself, and we ran a very successful youth organization, and we weren't Zionistic. We just wanted to serve the community, and I believe that we were the initiators of Atzora that runs in Johannesburg today. I'm very proud to say that we were there before. We did duties at the Fates, at Yom Ha'atzmaut, and we used to also do service at the old age home, and as well as clinics in Alexander. So I left King David School after Form 1, and I did get a degree behind my name. It's FSS, NSS. I failed Standard 6, and I now was selling steel. I joined Max Steel I joined Flexus Steel in 1970. Stayed with them for 10 years, and then progressed to Max Steel. I worked my way through Max Steel, having been given various companies to pull out of the trouble that Eric Sampson bought, and was very successful at Max Steel. I was on the main board, and they had a policy that you had to retire at 65. I did try and work want to work there another 5 years, but they said I could stay a year, and I left and I joined 2 guys. The company is Charisma Steel, where I started a scrap business, which we do very well. We do about 3,000-4,000 tons a month. I just hope I don't have to retire. I want to work till I'm 80, 82. Very good. The other thing, as I said, I was one of the founder members of Capri Weeders, and that club is still running today, the cycling club. The other thing that I am very involved in, my wife and I'm the director at Selwyn Siegel Gift Center, and my wife has run that shop as the main volunteer for over 50 years. Just an amazing operation. The amount of money we've collected for Selwyn Siegel. Very proud of my wife, Mary Joan Abramson. We had 2 children. Unfortunately, we lost one. And my son Malcolm has 3 children. So that's our grandchildren. I am very proud to say that we have 86 nieces and nephews, great nieces and nephews, and great nieces and nephews. Whoa. So for our siblings, it's just amazing. We have a wonderful family. So if we have a family do, my wife has 40 people at a time, and I have 50 people at a time. I've also remained at Sydenham Shul. I was at nursery school at Sydenham Shul. I'm still there. I do see Moshe and Ilana, very friendly with their son, and do Gemara lessons with Gemara Shir with Rabbi Goldman. I've been doing that since 2003. Generally, we've had a good life. It's just wonderful that I have stayed connected to you people. Of course, I'm looking now, I see Oshi. Oshi and I, we share a birthday, Oshi and I, the same day. And, all those years that he was at Shul, we miss you there. But people move on. So thank you very much. I'm really pleased that I could get here. And I'm sorry I never finished with you. But still, hope you all remember me. Thank you very much.
I want to say, David, that your wife is more than just a volunteer. She's an icon in our Jewish community and an incredible fundraiser. And as you say, has worked devotedly and untiringly without any pay for 50 years and has built that Selwyn Siegel gift shop into an absolutely legendary shop. It's known all over the world. I covered you and her.
We are at the moment we are going to expand the shop into the 3 Roses restaurant. And
wow.
So everybody suggested
that's a brilliant idea.
Over the 50 years, everybody said to her, why don't you open a coffee shop? Well, she got Saul to open the coffee shop, and now that it's going to be incorporated into a shop. Thank you, Rani. I see, yes, I designed that jersey. Brian, I designed it with the Erkies beside note. Amazing that you've still got it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. Carmel, can you unmute? Carmel?
No Carmel.
I'm going to ask Alan Lipworth to unmute in the meantime. Alan, are you?
I'm here. Hello.
Oh, hi, Carmel. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Lovely to see you all and to hear you all. I live in Israel. I've been here since 1977. I'm a nursery school teacher, and I must tell you, Ilana, that all the songs that the children would learn when I taught English here was from your mother. And English was a very funny language for all these children. They used to sing the song. And lovely to see you, Melanie. I'm so happy that I'm seeing you. Unfortunately, my camera is not working, so you can't see me. And we've got 2 children and 4 grandchildren. And the one has just had a big bar mitzvah. And that's where I am. And I have wonderful memories of all of you. In fact, Jeanette, we were at Eve's house and John many years ago with a mini get-together, if you remember, in Tel Aviv.
I absolutely do know. I'm sorry I forgot to mention you. I was so thrilled that you came. I think it's from Beersheba you came.
Right, I came from Beersheba.
Catches the train at night to come and see us. It was just wonderful.
It was fantastic. And I remember David Masulawan was there and Michael Katz had unfortunately passed away, took you all around.
Yeah, he picked us up. He lived in Jerusalem. He came to pick us up in Tel Aviv to join you that night. And
that's right. So
missing terribly, we would see him always.
Yeah, very, very sad. But John was there. He didn't remember me, but he was in the lift and he couldn't remember who I was. But here I am again, seeing you all. And Rhoda, if you remember, you lived in Durban and you opened up the baby shop. Do you remember those days? No, she's not in the she can't hear, obviously.
So yes, huh?
Yes, I do.
You do remember. Okay, so it's a small world that I saw you today and Maury. Yeah, that you know, we've been speaking to each other. And no, it's wonderful. Ilana and Moshe, you're very, very friendly with my brother. And I remember when my niece got engaged, Moshe came over and he said he wanted to take a picture of me at the party. And I said, well, you can't take a picture of me because you're on the wrong side, because they're religious. So he said, no, I want to show Ilana that how you here. I said, well, you can't because you come over to the wrong side of the room. And it's lovely to see you all. And I remember David, and just fantastic to hear everything about all your lives. So it's really wonderful. At the moment in Israel, we are very, very sad, as you know, what is going on here. And unfortunately, I've lost a few friends that their children were in this, on the 7th, on these kibbutzim, and they lost their only son and their grandson on the same day. And just it's very, very difficult it's difficult, it's very difficult and very, very sad. But we have to move on. What can we do? So this is the story of what I'm doing here. I volunteer in the hospital in Beersheba twice a week. I used to be 3 times a week. I do a lot of volunteering there. Folding, washing. I'm not a nurse, but that's the story.
Someone has to do it, and thank you.
No, but it's absolutely fantastic. And I used to be able to speak to the people that had all the young mothers, but as soon as Corona started, they stopped that from all the volunteers. And now I have more dealings with them, but other than that, I fold the baby washing and I enjoy it very, very much. And that's my life here. But it's really I'm so happy that this came for today, and I'm really sorry that you can't see me, but it's lovely, lovely to see you all. And just be healthy, and best thing is health and health and health, and be happy.
Thank you.
Carl, you'll have to send a picture of yourself to our.
I've got a problem with we've got a problem with the computer. John, my husband, went across the road, and the man that helps this young student with it, he said, no, you've got a problem with the camera. So that is why you couldn't see me today. There is a problem.
It's lovely. It's lovely to hear you.
But thank you very, very much, and for doing this for us, because I really looked forward to the meeting 65 years ago, but we never got there. So we're here today. Yeah.
Rather late than never.
Yeah, absolutely, quite right. But really, thank you very, very much, Gila, for all your patience and all your letters. Fantastic.
Only my pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
And so I'm really
Alan, I
sorry
see you
that
were able to unmute.
Yes.
Sorry, Carmel.
Sorry.
I cut you off. I didn't hear what your last sentence was.
I said thank you very, very much for all that you do and all the letters that you send.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Alan, hello.
Hi, Gila. Yeah, I've unmuted. So to go back to some memories and early memories, I was in grade 1, Mrs. McCool's class. The whole class double jumped and went to standard 1. And standard 1 was where I got my first cuts from Abe Lipschitz, that wonderful man, Steve's dad. What happened at Ronnie Demba, I don't know if you remember, we had Rabbi Koppel Rosen came to visit. The whole school was in the hall. We all rose to sing Avenu Shalom. And as we sat down, I put a drawing pin underneath your seat. You were just in front of me, on the floor. You sat on the drawing pin and jumped straight up into the air. And I was hauled off to, and it pained Abe Lipschitz more than it pained me, that first cuts that I got. But that was the beginning of my career. Now, I remember Kenny Hyman, before he was at King David Primary School, he was at H.A. Jack. I remember playing rugby with him age 10. He's not here, he's left the meeting, but he sat on my shoulder and broke my collarbone, which had to be surgically reset. I remember many of these lovely stories. Before I go on, just say I was shocked to hear there's only 35,000, 34,000 Jews left in South Africa. And I know we all grew up thinking there were about 120,000. But in fact, Alan Swerdlow, in that wonderful series that he made, and I spoke to him afterwards, told me at its peak, there were 160,000 Jews in South Africa, which is really interesting to know. So a bit more of my background. I married Sharon, who was Sharon Campbell, then Sharon Tugendhaft. She was married to Oshi's late brother, who tragically died in that car accident. We have 3 kids. I adopted 2 older kids, Lauren and Jared, and then Adam came along. We have 8 grandchildren between ages of 5 and 25. So we've really been blessed. Everybody's been well and successful. We live in New York. We have a home in Florida, in Aventura, between Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach. We're actually in New York at the moment, but we've just come back from a trip to South Africa and Dubai. Oshi, I don't know, you were sleeping last night when somebody told us of your premature demise, and we had to remind them, no, Oshi's still well and healthy and happy and still around and with us. Peter did, and so did I. I don't know much more. I retired in mid-2023, but I'm still very active. I'm involved still in the business. I'm in the diamond business. I mean, I'm retired from the main business, but I'm still involved in working with a jeweler and private customers. I'm involved in various other things and just kept busy all the time. So that's my.
We have to, otherwise you get old.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to stay, stay young and healthy.
Absolutely, amen. Hello, Brian Katz.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Sure thing.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Ah, very good, good. Yeah. Who said, poor old Joe has gone below, his voice we hear no more. For what he thought was H2O was H2SO4.
Erlang.
There you go.
Gosh, I don't remember that.
Jacobson, stop looking at the rats. The rats won't let you pass.
We keep quoting that one. We've taught our grandchildren and great-grandchildren about poor old Joe. Thanks, Brian.
Brian, you didn't say that properly. It goes something like this. Poor old Joe has gone below. His face we hear no more. For what he thought was H2O was H2SO4.
There you go. And Ron, I'll see your 3 cuts in a week and raise you to 3 times cuts in a day. One was Miss Berman caught me practicing the underhand knife throw from the what was it, the Magnificent Seven, with a compass to the door. That was the first one. David, by his admission, sent me for the second one. And I can't remember what the third one was, but the third one, Sandra just threw his hands up. He didn't give me any cuts in. Okay.
Third one was just in case.
Do you remember when it snowed and the boss walked out of he walked out onto the veranda and he was hit by a snowball and he gave the guy cuts?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, for what we're here for, I got married in 71 to Sima Muniz. We had 3 kids. Still have 3 kids, but we got divorced some time ago. She actually died recently. She had got cancer. I've got 5 grandchildren with 3 kids. In fact, my eldest daughter is the bursar at King David School, Joanne Levine. Yeah. Sometime later in 2004, no, five. I married my present wife, Nikki, and her and I get on very well. I mean, we're very happy. It's wonderful. She's got 2 kids. Yeah, so I've got a stepdaughter, stepson, step-grandchild. One step-grandchild lives with us. We brought her up from nappies. Long circumstances. Before I met her, all I had was a stepladder. Career-wise, I've had an eclectic flying career, you could say. After a private pilot license in 69, 70, I'm missing out a whole lot of stuff here, but I ended up in Israel. I did a commercial pilot's license. I learned to spray crops with a microlight for some reason. I ended up in America for some time. I was a commercial pilot there. I was instructor in Philadelphia, towed banners for a season, charter pilot. I did a stint in Africa, based in Point Noir, in a Lockheed Electra. Did some microlight instruction, crop spraying with a microlight in Pongola. I was a conservation pilot for the Homelands version of Natal Parks Board, and then I ran my own helicopter business. I started and ran a helicopter business for 16 years. What I like to tell when I bump into priests and dominees, and Dave, I've got to include your dad, even though he's not yet. I tell them that I made more people genuinely pray, genuinely, than any of them ever had. After helicopters, after helicopters, I started a internet business, an internet service provider, a small internet business, and that's what I'm doing now. Where am I? Health-wise, I see my rosacea has popped out here. I can see my picture here. If I've got to choose an incurable disease, I'll take rosacea anytime. Thank you very much. Heart attack in 2004, 5 stents, double bypass, 2013. Is David Roberts, he's still with us? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
You there? Okay.
No, he's here.
So 5 stents, double bypass, VO2 max up to 45, max heart rate 174, riding 8,000 kilometers a year. There we go.
Good.
Lost 30 kilos.
And where do you live?
Sorry? I live in London too, East London, South Africa. East London.
Oh. Where in East London?
In Beacon Bay.
Ah, don't know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you're still with us. Wow.
Oshi. Brian, you had all of that done on the NHS?
Sorry?
Did you have all of that done on the NHS?
There are no. Well, no. Here we've got medical aids. So the heart operation cost 90,000 rand. Medical aid paid about 30.
Ryan, may I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
Did you ever come across the chief pilot of South African Airways, Scully Levine?
Often.
Yeah, well, Scully Levine came from Petersburg, where my family came from, and he invited me to come up to the flight deck on the first flight from Johannesburg to Tel Aviv that overflew Africa after apartheid. And he told me, he said, when I tell you to look down on the left through the window, look down exactly when I tell you. And I did, and there I saw the pyramids.
Really?
Oh.
Ezra?
Yes.
Ezra, Scully and my parents are best friends, and they're currently on holiday in Vietnam.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. That's nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to
Oshi,
excuse
how are you?
myself. I have to leave now. I'm sorry, but it's been a fantastic reunion. Let's go for the 80th one in 20 years' time.
Definitely.
Looking forward to
Why are
that.
you skipping why are you skipping 10 years?
Maybe we should try the 5-year one.
I think so.
If I have my way, I'll be here at 80.
Well, happy to do an intermediary one soon, but it's really great of you guys to organize this. Looking forward to the next one.
So are we. And
Tot
it's
ziens.
Fantastic.
really lovely seeing you
And
Thanks,
by the
Ron.
way,
Keep well.
by the way, if anyone wants to link to me on LinkedIn, that might be a good way to stay in
Oh,
touch.
great. And I just want to say to you that because you were so naughty at school, you were endless entertainment for all of us.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
that's
Ronnie.
I have to tell my wife that. I'm sure she'll appreciate it.
It was just lovely. You were a great light in our lives.
Thank you, Lona, and wonderful to see you doing so well and doing such wonderful stuff.
I remember you from the bus, Ron, you and your brother. So
Yeah.
fond memories too. Thank you. Well done.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
leave the WhatsApp group. Stay
Alon,
on the
by the
WhatsApp
way,
group. We're not going to stop it.
my brother Alon became one of the most famous guys in the cancer world. And on the day he achieved one of his biggest successes, he was told he had, a very aggressive form of leukemia. He was only 44 at the time, but he was my older brother and light. And there's a wonderful story about this because in his last year, he and I got to see each other every day, which we would never have done normally. So in some sense, that was a blessing. But he told me in a sort of his quiet voice that he always looked up to me. And I thought, what? You always looked up to me? I always looked up to you. And that's the kind of thing that would never happen unless something terrible like this is going on. So that's good story behind it.
I'd like to thank all of you for being here today and bringing back all these fun memories. And it's been a super morning, and I wish you all well. I'd like to say hi.
We still have 2 more to listen to. We have Oshi and Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hang 10. Oshi, talk.
Let's hear them.
Let me just do a very, very quick thing. Can I just tell you, when I came to King David, David Goss spoke earlier about the values.
With new ones.
I mean, the most amazing thing is the values that have been created in the Zionist values as well.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. But I came to King David in grade 2 because my parents said, must go to Jewish school. So they moved home from Bertram's to Observatory Extension. I arrived, and the first day my father drops me and he says, ask Esau, take his bus and ask for Mervyn Bloch. Mervyn Bloch will tell you where to get off. So as a kid of 6, there I got on this, I found the bus. Are you Esau? Now I'm Jacob, etc. I get onto this bus and I say, are you Mervyn? Nobody was Mervyn. Mervyn comes on the bus. He says, yes, I'm expecting you. I'll tell you where to get off. Tells me where to get off finally next to him. And he says, he's going to the right. I must walk down this road. Do you know? He asked me, do you know right or left? I said, yes, I write with my right hand. He says, yes, your right hand, go to the right. Can you read numbers? I said, yes. He said, look for 51 Clip Street. I looked for that address and I found the address. And I tell my grandchildren this story, and young kids of 6 and odd, and they can't believe that you let a child just go on the bus first day and find his way home. But I'll just tell you very, very briefly, after matric, I studied law at university. I'm still practicing full time. I gravitate between Joburg and Cape Town. But my hobby always was singing, as everyone knows. So I did many, many concerts overseas with my backing singers and musicians. But I'll just tell you one little story that for me epitomizes what my values were and what our values are, and the instruction that I got at King David. Someone has once asked me, of all the concerts that you've done overseas, has there been a highlight? I said, yes, there's been a highlight. It was not a highlight at the concert. We did all these concerts all over, raising money for Magen David Adom for Israel. So throughout, we did about 25 overseas tours. It was always the main sponsor, the main beneficiary was Magen David Adom. None of my musicians, singers, none of us got paid. But I came to Los Angeles, and backstage a man comes. He was a Holocaust survivor, Mr. Greenberg. And he says, I like your concert, but I have one complaint. He said, you never did Kol Nidre. So I said, Mr. Greenberg, no, that's not this kind of concert. This is like a pop Jewish concert. We don't do liturgical. But I said, you know what? I called all the singers together and we did backstage Kol Nidre. And when we finished, there were tears rolling down his eyes. And he then said, what are they collecting for? So I said, yes, it's ambulances for Israel. This was one of the intifadas that was going on. So he says, how much does an ambulance cost? And the organizer came over. He said, no, an ambulance costs $60,000. So he says, I'll give a little contribution. And he writes like in a broken scroll, takes out a check and he starts writing. And I saw him write 600, and then I saw him write $6,000. And then he added the other note, and he gave them $60,000 as a contribution. And for me, I've often told the story. I said, that was the absolute highlight. If you ask me which concert was the highlight, I said, that was the most memorable occasion for all of us backstage. But let me just finish with this. I married Karen Waldman. We've got 4 children. Unfortunately, my wife, Karen, died in 2008 from cancer. I've got 3 grandchildren, and my life revolves around the grandchildren. But the story that I told you about Mervyn Bloch on the bus, how is this Jewish connection? Fast forward to 2023. We were in Israel in fact, 2 weeks before the terrible October the 7th. And I go into the supermarket, and there's a guy walks over, he's got a beard and everything. And he looks at me, says, Oshi? So I looked, I said, oh my goodness, Mervyn Bloch. And I told him the story. I said, you saved me, you brought me home that first day of my school in grade 2. Well, he couldn't remember it. But it just shows you, there's Mervyn, had made Aliyah many years ago, living in Israel. But the Jewish connection and what we feel for all of you in Israel is just unbelievable. I don't think a day has gone by in South Africa amongst my friends that we have not spoken about what's happening, the latest events. And of course, this last week was absolutely, absolutely heartbreaking. But I just wanted those people in Israel to know the connection that we feel for all of you, and of course, for everyone, all our ex-Davidians. This closeness, and Moshe, for having put us in connection with each other. When we read the emails, how significant it is to feel that every single person, all our friends, everybody has got this Jewish connection and the Zionist connection. It is quite incredible. So thank you very much for arranging this. Quite beautiful.
Fine. Thanks, Oshi. And you continue to bring us joy with your singing, wherever. Come to Florida. We'll create a concert for you, a venue.
I was in Florida. I was at Rabbi Lipska's brother. He's the Chabad shul there. And with my choir, we did concerts there, but we did a Friday night service. And the Friday night service, when I started, I put on the tallis, and he said, no, Oshi, we don't wear a tallis here in Chabad Friday night. I said, okay, I won't wear a tallis. He said, but do you mind wearing this big hat? And he gives this big hat to wear. And the last instruction, as I got onto the bima, he said, oh, the last thing, we don't like to repeat words. Oh, well, now we're doing compositions, and I would sing a composition like, la 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 la. We were repeating everything la 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 la. But anyway, it was very memorable.
Well, let me know when you come to Florida again, please.
Will do.
Brian Milner, hello.
Oh, hi. Hopefully you can hear me all right.
Yep.
We can.
Okay, well, I guess I don't want to use the words, but last, but maybe not least. So,
Well, Peter was supposed to be after you and he disappeared, so you weren't supposed to be last.
oh, okay. Anyway, let me just quickly start off by giving a little short story here. So when I went to the Bernard Patley Hebrew School, which was associated with the Yeovil Shul until Standard 1. And then in Standard 2, I moved over to King David. And I was thrown into this class of people who I did not know at all. And the first person to come over to me was David Goss, who took one look at me and says, Skinny Malinks.
Skinny Malinks.
That name has stuck throughout my life. And I've been known as Skinny for, I don't know how many years. So thank you, David, for that.
Or not.
And it's been modified. I've been called Skinneth and the Skin Man and whatever, but Skinny stuck. And I didn't put it up there because my computer doesn't have that. But anyway, I went through King David, and then I went to Wits and did some degrees, ended up becoming a seismologist or a geophysicist. And then from there, eventually joined Sucor, the oil company. From there, I went to Pretoria, joined a civil engineering company as their geophysicist. I was married to my wife, Alice Cohen, in 1974. We then moved on and came to the US in 1987. We had 2 kids, our son and daughter. And we've lived in Richmond, Virginia ever since then. So we've been here 38 years. I'm just almost at the point, and to go to Steve Lipschitz's, I'm at that average of 76. Yeah, so I meet the average age. And we, my son at some point in time put a compass on Richmond and drew a circle to see how far he could get away from his parents. And he ended up in San Francisco. So he's been in San Fran. He's married. He has, a step granddaughter who he adopted, and a daughter and another daughter who's at high school now, finishing high school. My daughter ended up going to live in Israel. She was there for many years. We visited there. We were trying to work it out. I think it was in 2018, and we did meet a lot of the folks. Steve Lipschitz, and we arranged a little get together there so we did meet several of the old Davidians there. I was involved with an engineering group here. I ran their environmental group for a while. They went out on my own in 2002 and have been doing consulting in the environmental world, particularly due diligence related to commercial real estate. One of the things that happened in Richmond here is somebody put a rope around my neck, dragged me into a meeting at our local shul, and it made me the president of the shul. And as many of you know, to quote the great words of Golda Meir, when she said to Richard Nixon, "I am the president of 2 million presidents." And that's what it is to be the president of a shul. So that was an interesting couple of years of my life. So I have been involved in the community. I also, as a little side hustle, am a yoga and Pilates instructor. I've been doing that for over 20 years. Enjoy that very much. And that's my life. I don't want to get into too much detail. For some people, it's really late at night. For some people, I do have to say one thing, Jeanette. So yeah. My cousin, one of my cousins came from South Africa recently. She has a grandchild that lives in where you are.
Yeah.
And we were there just a couple of weeks ago for a bat mitzvah. We did go to the Lubavitch Shul, and that was really a wonderful experience for us. We really enjoyed that. And so if I'd have known you were there, I would have given you a call.
Yeah, and Ezra's in Boca. We're very close to each other.
Yeah, we stayed in Boca, and the family was in Delray Beach. They live in the Polo Club.
I know exactly where it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a pity. Timing is everything. Well, maybe they've got another simcha coming up.
Yep, there would be. Well, there'll be hopefully a bar mitzvah in a couple of years. Oh, and so just one final thing with my daughter. She eventually moved out to Vietnam, where she taught English as a second language, and now she's in Bangkok. She may be going back to Vietnam, and we visited her in which was 2019, and on our way back, we heard about some kind of crazy sickness in China. So we managed to beat COVID by getting out of there before it all spread. So,
thank God. Very interesting. Who would have known, Brian? Seismologist. Good for you.
Yeah.
So there are quite a few. I mean, Ron Denver, I think, has left because he's also into, concern for the environment. So a few of us. Good for you.
You're welcome. You're welcome to unmute yourself now that everyone's had a chance to chat and just carry on talking, sharing.
Can I just add something? Sorry.
Sure.
I left the most important part of my life, perhaps, my children. I've got 2 children. Lives in Florida. She's an occupational therapist married to a radiologist, and she's got 3 beautiful girls, 2 of which are going to the Maccabi this year to compete. So that's really lovely. We keep this love of Israel going and love of Judaism, and keep in line, keep up with the pack. That's what I wanted to say.
And Alan Lipworth, we used to see you sometimes in Westchester because we were very friendly with Colin and Ruth Goldberg. And any simcha they had, we showed up and we would see you there. So we've had that connection.
Yeah, I remember a few other stories just come back to mind. Michal, you'll remember, I remember how involved and dedicated you were with Magen David Adom. But academically at school, you had problems with getting into medical school, and you came to see my dad. I came home to my dad and said, Michal really wants to go to medical school. And you came to see him, and I think he was helpful in getting you into medical school. And if I remember correctly, you graduated in the top 3 in your class at medical school. Ezra, I remember your family very well. Harry Best in the garden with the boxing, and your dad, Chummy, what a wonderful guy he was. And the big cars, he would come back from the States with those Lincoln convertibles. And sadly, he died a really young man. But Chummy was the right nickname for him. He was such a wonderful, big, gregarious sort of guy.
And if I may say, I remember your father at Beit Protea in Israel.
Yeah.
When I visited my father-in-law, I would always go and have tea with your dad.
Everybody loved my dad at Beit Protea. It was wonderful. I had one interesting experience from Beit Protea. I would visit him often because I was in Israel 5, 6, 7 times a year at that stage. And I would go and have Friday night with him, and everybody would be in the hall for Friday night dinner. And he was at a table with about a dozen women and my dad. I sit down one Friday night next to him, and the woman next to me turns to me and says, oh, when did you arrive at Beit Protea?
It's about time, yeah.
Michal, do you remember, I go back even further than that with you. Do you remember our famous club where you had to be initiated and you had to have wax dropped on your hand? I think you probably still got a scar on your right hand. It's there.
Initiation.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Bernard Resnick and you.
Alan, thank you very much. I remember that. Sitting in your guy near the pool and your dad was chatting to me. Because what happened was, I plugged Afrikaans matric. I never knew that die werk would gaan aan die einde van die sin. I wrote a SAP, and then I got deferred from the army, and I spent a year doing as a lab assistant working for De Beers, and then I went to med school.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your support.
David, do you remember Dr. Thomas?
Of course.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
She expelled me from school.
She told me something. She had this heavy Italian accent, which I used to mimic. And she used to say to me, you mock my language, I mock your Latin.
So David, I was
David, if you remember this, Form 1, you were mocking her language. She came up to you and said to you, what is your name? And you said, David a goss, and she said she slapped you across the face and said, "Goss, don't a fuck with me."
Yeah, I remember her. Wow, she was a tough cookie, but she was amazing. She
Yeah.
was really.
So David, I remember a story with you. Whenever she used to get angry with you, and you used to keep mocking her, you always used to say, "Dr. Thomas, tell us about the Sabine women."
Yeah, the rape of the Sabine woman.
Yeah, you used to love talking about that.
I'm really sorry to interrupt. I have to go because I've got to pack. I'm flying 7:20 tomorrow morning. But can I just say thank you to Gila for arranging this, and it's been lovely seeing everybody and meeting everyone. I'm so sorry to have interrupted that.
No.
Have a beautiful trip, Carol. Have a safe, beautiful trip.
I can't wait to see the Bougainvillea, the Strelitzia, and the Agapanthus.
I'm dropping also. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We're losing everybody. No more stories, I'm afraid.
I have one little story to seeing you all talking about stories at school. I remember when we were in matric, there were a couple of us waiting for classes to start, and we used to play outside we used to play cricket with a hockey ball and a hockey stick. And there were a couple of us used to play. Steve, I don't know if you were involved in that, but Steve
Kenny Hyman and
Kenny Hyman and everything. And somehow or other, the word got out that we'd been doing this, and we got sent off to meet our wonderful principal. And we walked in there and he said, "Now you are these senior people at the school, and you've been playing playing hockey in the corridors. It's not allowed." And the late Yigal Pactor kind of put up his hand and said, "Sir, I just need to correct something. We weren't playing hockey. We were playing cricket." It did not save us. We all ended up getting the stick.
You remember he used to say, "You miserable worms."
Yeah, I remember that. I remember form to be or not to be, and where we cut a pinball.
That's the question.
We cut a pinball machine into the top of a desk.
I remember that.
All the holes in the elastic bands.
And we had to carry the desk to the boss's office. I remember as evidence.
Oh.
I'll never forget, we were doing the matric dance, and Sandler lived down the road, and we were there sort of at midnight making a noise. And I saw him coming, and I shouted, "Chips, here comes the boss."
Well, we
and
heard that a lot.
And he said, "Who said that?" You know, everybody.
You used to call me Brian Cohen or Basil Katz. Never mind.
You guys remember Rabbi, not Rabbi Katz, but Mr. Katz, who was Rabbi Katz from Pretorius. He was the Hebrew teacher, and one of the thing that he hated most, I think, was that the windows would be open. And so he'd walk into class, we'd open all the windows, and we'd walk in the first thing, "Please close the windows." First thing to us. And then every class we'd open the windows, and he'd come in and please close the window.
We were terrible.
Yeah. Do you remember what you did to Mr. Lowry, that lovely history teacher? He would scratch his head and walk up and down the aisles all the time while teaching us.
Yeah, Donovan.
Yeah, and one day you guys poured sugar on the floor. Do you remember that?
What did you do?
You poured.
I had a book. One of my mother's books by a fellow, I think Anthony Trollope, the history. And I would bring it in. I showed Mr. Lowry this book, and ever after that, I would quote freely from this book and attribute it to Trollope all the time. I
don't know if you remember that at some point in our class, they showed us a movie on the effects of smoking and lung cancer and everything. Everybody had to be in the hall, and they showed this movie, and there was Lowry at the back.
Yeah.
So nervous about it, he was smoked the whole way through the thing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I remember the boss making
apologies.
I've got
to go. I've got to go and do the most important thing in my life always, is to go and fetch my two grandkids from soccer. So I'll have to leave everyone. But thanks everyone. It was really amazing. Thanks.
Thanks, Oshi. Good to
Nice to see you, Oshi.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see that you're still alive.
Who said this? That news of that is exaggerated? What?
News of my early demise. Anyway,
Yeah.
guys, I've also got
know where you, Alan, I don't know where you heard this, but it's,
No, somebody
anyway.
posted it. It was posted last
Hello.
night. You were asleep, and then I responded immediately, and then Ron Dembo responded. Not Ron, Peter Learn responded as well, and he quoted that famous quote.
Thanks.
Well,
Thanks,
we're
Alan,
thrilled
for
to see you,
Okay,
Oshi.
bye all.
And on
Oshi,
that happy note, goodbye to all. Thank you so much. Been wonderful.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Bye
Bye.
now.
Everybody, thank you. See you in 20 years' time.
10 years, 10 years.
I'm heading out.
Thank you very
all.
much.
Nice talking. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Out of this.
So